live. Hello, everybody. Very exciting episode today. We can talk about the business that is the book.
Say what?
The book biz. It is going to be a great episode. Even if you've only ever written for hobby, it's just something you love to do, or even if you're into fan fiction writing and not really into anything else, hello. I promise you, this will be a episode that will have something for everybody because we have found some real resources to add to the conversation, as well as one of the resources that Tom found this week. I think it's just good all around for writers. It's not just for if you're interested in self-publishing. Like, it has an aspect to it, but also just if you are into like, say you want to put a coffee shop in one of your books. Well, this website has like a whole article about starting up a coffee shop and all the costs involved with that. And that can be very helpful if you are, say, a writer, so you don't have to do all that research yourself. Somebody else has already done it and they've written a lovely article about it. So Tom has found this fantastic resource. I'm very excited to share with y'all. As well as I have all these lovely writers that published, by the way. Every one of these people has published a book. Okay, myself included. Um, it just was so long ago. It was in the before time, hint, the previous century. So, I know. I'm semi-immortal. That's the thing. It's like you all don't realize. Because I'm just a tad immortal, and I'm quite old. But anyway, my
Hey, I just had a birthday, so can we not like harp on age at the moment? Like, I'm very vulnerable about this right now. Like,
about publishing in the previous century, like I have.
so like I not only had my birthday on Friday, but then I had to lead a service about loss and letting go and stuff. Like the two together have given me a fairly like it's a little sore spot right now.
A little bit of a complex.
A little
Okay.
bit.
But anyway, my point to speak. Here we have our lovely panelists. There is the fantastic and cozy Laura Nettles.
Hello.
And there is the very talented and surprisingly here, Charlie. And there is the technically gifted and also my brother, Tom. And there is myself, who has been writing and publishing since the 90s, y'all. The 90s.
As long as I've been alive.
How dare.
Laura, have you been taking notes from Megan?
I am
With the aggression.
my tender emotions,
I am.
which are
Here
on
I
your
was about
head.
to say, and like I won my first award for writing when I was 11, the Yoknapatawpha Arts Council. You know, the William Faulkner Arts Council one. And when I say I won an award, they decided to give me honorable mention, and that was not a listing they had, nor did they have a ribbon. So one of the judges pulled out a $10 bill, and that's literally what I hold up in the picture that went into the newspaper. Was I held it up like a ribbon.
The
Like
best
the-
green ribbon.
Look, this is the best ribbon. They didn't get cash. They all got not war bonds, but treasury bonds. And I got cash, and I was like, oh yeah, that is how I started writing, because I didn't know you could get paid for writing before that.
I suppose technically, if I listen to my sister, I have to say that my first published work was in the 80s because I won a contest at school to write the poem that they would read at the 5th grade graduation, and it was published in the newspaper.
I mean,
So-
yeah, that qualifies.
Yeah.
Because I've seen historians reference this of like, oh, so-and-so, Louisa May Alcott got published in this, but it was for a contest. And I'm like, if it counts for people in the 19th century, then it counts for you too, Charlie.
So
Especially
technically,
since you did not, it was not paid advertising.
Mm-hmm. You did not
Very
pay
true.
to put it in the paper.
yeah, I'm going to be here for the first hour. I time zone badly.
Okay.
Fun.
So, the book.
So, Charlie, when you made a proposal for this episode, what did you have in mind?
Well, some of the things that I get really nervous about when I talk to especially self-published authors is the lack of understanding of return on investment and what that actually means and looks like for self-published authors. Because if we're going to be honest, the residuals that we're going to get back on our published books is going to be anywhere between a quarter and maybe if we're lucky, $3. Um, like if we're super lucky,
Yeah, Tom, how much have you made?
per book, right? Like on average, my work I make on average between 75 cents and $1.25 per sold thing, and that's not a lot of money to recoup an investment on. So when you're doing your math and you're sitting back thinking, well, I'm going to pay $500 for a cover and $500 for editing, that's $1,000 that you have to recoup before you've made profit on this, and that could be well over 1,000 books that you now have to sell to make that money back. And considering $1,000 is the floor threshold for most bestseller lists, and by that I mean like the algorithmically generated bestseller lists, not the fake ones that are published in papers. That's usually the floor to get into those. That's a lot of books to have to move to make that money back. And while I'm not saying it's not a good investment to spend on having a really good cover, and sometimes the emotional investment of having that pride of, oh, look how good my book looks, will spur you into building a catalog that can build up a business and build up a brand and recoup that money in the long run. It is difficult to recoup an investment in books, especially if you're going to fall for a lot of the snake oil out there about, hey, did you know ads make miracle grow for book sales? Because they're not. They're not. They can help with book sales.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not. If you ever see a book that tells you, buy this book and I'll show you how to make X number of monies with ads, they're lying to you.
Mm-hmm.
They're making already made them their money.
Yes, by buying the book.
Mm-hmm.
Which they're then going to turn around and use as proof that their system works.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than point to this person bought my book and then they sold this many books.
Yep. And so, what I really want people to be thinking about when they're looking at this is, yeah, it's okay for us to have expensive hobbies if that's what we want to have, but a lot of people want to at least make enough that make this a valuable either side hustle, or a lot of us do dream of this being our main source of income. And that's a very different road to walk if you actually want to make money from this, like have money at the end, like not just, if you want to know how hard this is, Courtney, the Courtney Project does very clear videos, and they're making good money as Kennedy Fox. But when she lays out, but we spent this much money in ads, this much money on covers, this much money on this, that, and the other thing, and you see how much of the large sums that they're getting in is going right back out the door to keep that engine going. You have to start asking what it is that you're wanting to build and what you want your business to look like. And I just want people to have more of a sense of reality for what the industry is.
Also, I think another part that people don't think of very often, Charlie touched on a little bit, is the whole concept of back catalog.
Mm-hmm.
And it is far easier, and any good business owner knows this one. It is a lot easier to keep a customer than it is to gain a new customer.
Yes.
So it is a lot cheaper and more financially viable for a customer to have repeat visits. And in book publishing, that means purchasing multiple books from you than trying to get that many people to purchase just one book from you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why often it's the best way to really get a book business going, if you were creating one, is like, Laura's working on her first, like truly big, full size, realized, was it 200 pages?
Yeah.
Book out there. And that is, and she, but she is very realistic in that this is to get the foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the automatic bestseller that will make me a millionaire book.
And just remember,
Of book publishing for an author is more akin to when you play role-playing games and leveling up.
Yep.
And your first book is your beginner tool set.
Yes.
You know what? It'll let you go out in the field and not immediately die when the slime shows up.
Right, because
Not
it's
the
so
slime.
embarrassing to die from slime.
But
It's embarrassing. It's
But
like
this-
the slime got me.
but this is not the tool set that you go troll hunting with.
No.
but that's one of the reasons why I highly recommend people read Sol Stein's books, especially Stein on writing. Not that you'll necessarily learn some great trick that will make your writing better, but he is so realistic about the industry. And what he has to say is as true now as when he wrote it, about how the petty little squabbles ended up crushing books that he thought were some of the most brilliant things ever. But somebody said something at a party to somebody that got back to somebody else. And so the book never came out. And I love his analogy that success as far as money goes is ruby dust. It is little elves sneak in on some and pour ruby dust on some writers in the middle of the night. You never know. You could read the most brilliant book ever and it never sell a copy. And you can read the most trashy piece of crap book ever and it's a huge bestseller. That is really market whims and really hard to control for.
Glory was truly disillusioned a few years ago when, looking for inspiration in writing, we went to Barnes and Noble or Books a Million, I can't remember, and we went and got, just the most interesting cover sci-fis, because usually the more they're willing to spend on a cover, the more they're pretty sure that this will appeal to a lot of people, so it's worth the investment.
Mhm.
Like, at least with sci-fi, it is very true. Judge it by its cover. That shows you how much the publisher trusts this story. And did you get past the first chapter in a single book? We got like 6 or 7.
Nope. Not a one. They were all dismal. And it wasn't just sci-fi. I also picked up romance. I picked up some urban fantasy. I picked up a variety of everything that had a really cool looking title and then the back blurb sounded good. We bought all of those. And I took 7 of them home. I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out what is hot in fiction right now. And it was all crap and very poorly edited. When I say that, what I mean is it just drags in the first chapter. The one chapter that should definitely not drag in a trad pub is the first chapter.
Yep.
Because why should I keep reading it if y'all didn't give a crap about editing the first chapter for hooks and flow and, the whole art of writing? Like, I want an adventure. I want to get into this. And instead it's like, oh God, it's all exposition. Just shoot me. I don't care about these characters. Also, I don't even understand this world yet because the world building wasn't even in the first chapter. I'm sorry, what? Like, honestly, the back cover blurb had so much more world building in the urban fantasy than the first chapter had. The first chapter really read like a regular, just contemporary sort of sister story. Like, where is the stuff? Where is the world building? Where is the fun? Where is the plot?
It exited the book through osmosis onto the back cover.
Right? That was like, seriously, I pretty much said that to Tom. It's like,
It's what I call cinematic universe syndrome. It's they were planning a series and you were along for the and
they didn't even describe the house. Like,
Yeah.
there was nothing.
So
I was so ticked off. I was like, I really should go back to the bookstore and ask for my money back. Like, mad. I was just like, I wasn't mad that I'd spend it. I didn't actually spend that much. Because partly why I went was as a librarian, somebody had said, "Hey, here's my big yearly discount at Books a Million. You want it?" And I was like, "Sure, thank you." They're like, "You're a librarian. I figured you should probably go read more books than me." And they're like, "Because you always give me great book recommendations, so I figured here." And it was, I feel like, y'all, it was actually 3 different coupons that you could combine all together. So I got nearly 70% off. And then they were having a book sales. So, and it was 70% off sales. And I was like, oh, heck yeah. So I did not spend that much. It was just more like I was ticked off at the time I had spent. I'd spent an hour and a half in the bookstore trying to find these books. And then I went home and I tried to read every one of these books, and they were an absolute waste of my time. Like, I don't have great opinions about pulpy sci-fi from the 60s and 70s and even the 80s. There's often, it's kind of it's not that heavily edited either, but it at least followed the basic, rules of publishing. Like, you need to have a hook on the first page. You need to like get into the plot, even if you're then going to like do like exposition city, but you still need to, like, that first chapter needs to get to the world ASAP.
So, one of the biggest pieces of advice, just out of the gate, if you are wanting to be a fantasy writer, a science fiction writer, and this is even bleeding over into romance and mystery now, if you do not have an idea for a trilogy, get an idea for a trilogy. If you're doing this for business, if you're wanting to make money, you need to have at least 3 books. There are a lot of readers out there that will not start a series, pick up a book if there's not at least 2 after it that they can read. It is a weird thing about the industry that I don't know why that is, but I've seen this over and over and over again. Try to have at least three books planned out, and your first book has to have a satisfactory ending.
What?
What's that about, Charlie?
If your first book does not have a satisfactory ending and is just, and now go on to my second book because I'm here for your money, they will nope out of your series. They will give you a really bad review, and they will do their best to burn you to the ground. Like, it'll be an ugly breakup. The second thing that you need to do is study the Levitt's paradigm. This is an idea for plotting that came out of comic books, and I believe his full name was Paul Levitz. He was a editor for DC Comics, and basically the idea is you always have at least 3 stories, if not more, going at a time. You have an A plot, a B plot, and a C plot, and eventually your C plot will take over the series and become your A plot. This is how you protect yourself if you realize, oh, the series is selling really well, I need to continue it. In book 3, introduce a B plot that will be picked up in the next book so it doesn't come out of nowhere and confuse your readers why suddenly everything is different. This is one of the reasons comics have gone on for as long as they have, is because they're always seeding the next story that will follow. And it has this feeling of continuity. It's one of the reasons why the Marvel Cinematic Universe actually works and is a brilliant business idea, because they plant a bunch of B and C plots in every movie that, as they're realizing, oh, this is the path we want to go, they start pulling those threads from those previous stories forward, and it feels like continuity when it in fact is not.
Sometimes it's taken too far in movies, especially where it's this whole movie is a setup for the sequel. Yep. And it's like, what was the point?
Yeah.
Versus the reason Marvel worked is they put in a whole bunch of ideas. They did just like Moffat pulls in Doctor Who, of here's potential story spin-off ideas that we could also pursue down the rabbit hole. Which ones we do, you don't know. But we'll look for what people react to, and those are the ones we will continue with. Like, part of the reason they did Thor Love and Thunder is they had such a strong reaction to the lack of what's her name showing up in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, Natalie Portman.
That they're like, oh, okay, so they definitely want more Natalie Portman. What's a story we could do where we would have more of her character?
And you can see how they grabbed plot threads that were dropped in Age of Ultron and these Thor: The Dark World and made it feel like continuity.
Mhm.
Like, oh yeah, this is what was meant to happen story-wise, that they broke up, they had a messy breakup. That's why we just kind of stopped talking about her and not dealing with any of the meta reasons of Natalie Portman being really mad at them. But being able to set that up will help you so much in your career. Now, also realize most of your books are not going to sell well out of the gate. So you are going to be financing this out of pocket at the beginning. Unless you're very lucky. You may have that debut book that Book Talk does not destroy. Who knows? Because unfortunately, like if you really want to have a bestseller, bait Book Talk into liking you or hating you. Either way, you will sell books. But realize you're going to be paying for everything up front and not seeing that return immediately. Your goal right now with your first several books and possibly even the first series that you put out is to build a stable audience that will then become the people that will go out and tell other people, oh my goodness, why haven't you read this? I want to talk to you about this. Why have you not read this? Your goal is to create a fandom around your work. Everything that you are doing needs to be in service of that. If that to you means a certain type of book cover, then pay for that certain kind of book cover. If you're especially writing hard sci-fi and know that you're going to be torn apart for every little mistake that might be in there, hire a research assistant to help you make sure you have the science right. If that's going to help you build your audience, do that. But know that that's all upfront cost.
I would like to take a moment and share my personal philosophy of business. Buckle up. This is very controversial. And I know this is controversial because I have shared this with many other business owners, and every one of them has told me to my face that I was full of shit and that I didn't know what I was thinking. I didn't know what I was talking about. That is not how you run business. And I'm going to tell you also that, fun fact, every one of their businesses closed. The video store, I did not because we were not profitable. We actually were very profitable. I closed it because, number one, I hated the hours. I was working 80 hours a week and I was exhausted. I didn't have any energy to even go to the gym. And number two, I wanted to do other things. I hate, rentals are exhausting to manage. And to be perfectly honest, I really did not care for the clientele. I had a lot of issues with essentially renting videos out to hillbillies. They were just not people I like. Anyway. But we did not close the business because it was not profitable. It was grossly profitable. However, I saw that the business had an end game because rentals were dying. And while our rental business was still thriving, it would eventually come to us. Like, internet would eventually make it to this rural area, and streaming was the wave of the future. And so I was like, well, let's get out now while we can. Anyway, ditto for my home party business. It was very successful. Financially, we did not close because of finances. We closed because our mom had cancer, and I had to make a choice between taking care of her 24/7 or taking care of my business baby. And I knew I would regret it later if I my mom. Like, if I knew that if she died and I hadn't taken care of her, I would feel terrible. I would feel bad about it. And that was why. So again, my business philosophy has served me well in my many businesses. And here is it. Okay, listen up. If you want your business to survive, and what Charlie is talking about is establishing a book business. You have, as a writer, your business, your product is your books. You are selling your books. So it is a business. So even if you think of it as my lovely artsy craftsy thing, this is my hobby and I love it. And I agree, you should absolutely love it. But if you're selling something, that's a business. If you have to pay taxes, that's a business. Okay. So let's just accept the truth. It's a business. The less you spend to establish and to upkeep, the more likely you are to be able to keep it going, even when times get hard, even when the taste of readers changes, even when you have your entire life fall apart and your parents are dying and your children are doing terrible in school and you don't write for a solid year, not anything but grocery lists and notes to the teacher. That's the only thing you write. And you essentially neglect your business is far more likely to survive if you did not have to put in a lot to establish and then maintain it. So what I mean by that is I do not believe in cutting corners. I believe in being very prudent about what to spend money on and what does not necessarily need the newest, the greatest, the flashiest. So the thing to pay attention to is what can I, as far as, so, okay. In regular brick and mortar businesses, some of the biggest recurring expenses for overhead are your rent or lease and your employee pay. And in fact, usually employee pay is the number one expense in any given business for overhead. You got to pay the people. They got to pay their rent too. So you have to ask yourself, okay, what can I do to reduce costs? Because the less you are spending every month on overhead, and overhead is the things that recur, that you have to pay in order to keep having a business. So for instance, in a book business, that might be a website. A website is the equivalent of rent or a lease. So what is the lowest cost I can spend while still having something that looks nice and appealing to my potential customers, or in this case, readers, and do that. So again, we're not talking about cutting corners. We're not talking about being cheap. Cheap has a very negative connotation, which I did not grow up with. But all right, if the Gentiles say that cheap is a bad word, okay, fine. We'll say frugal.
It's the differentiation we've made between cheap and frugal. You
right.
need to be
It's
frugal.
like frugal is such a not sexy word, and at least
it
it's
is
a little bit sexy.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, we're getting into semantics. Yes, to me, cheap is a little bit of a sexy word, and frugal is like, oh, so buttoned down. Blah. Anyway, but my point just being, look at your recurring costs. So your website, your domain name, if you're paying for email services, if you're paying for newsletter services, these things that are recurring costs, really look at that. Look at essentially what the rich, the wealthy told me: subscription costs. Subscription costs will whittle away at your money. So never pay for subscriptions. Only just pay to outright own it, because property is valuable. Subscriptions have no inherent value, which that part is true. So look at the things that are your recurring costs, i.e. your overheads, the things that you essentially can't renegotiate after you've established it. Like once you have a website up, people could be upset if you suddenly don't have a website. So you need to be aware of that. And really make sure that at the very least, you are getting the biggest bang for your buck. So do the research there. That's where you spend your research time, is looking for the best location at the most reasonable price. For us, it would be a website. So Charlie was telling me about Substack last night and sold it very well. Why, yes, I have set up a Substack. And if you click on my link tree down below, you can then sign up for my Substack. If you have already signed up for my newsletters from the previous, then you don't need to do anything, because I just moved you over last night in the middle of the night, because of course. But anyway, Substack, as Charlie pointed out, they only take a cut of your pay if you get paid. If you make money off of Substack, it's the only time you pay. I liked that because, again, I don't have an overhead reoccurring cost that I have to pay whether I'm making money or not. So again, think about what is worth your money and what maybe you don't have to pay. So for instance, at the video store, I paid, this is so long ago, I paid for this wonderful software that was to make all these graphic design stuff. You can make newsletters, you can make cards, you can make signage. So that I paid $20 at Sam's Club for this software, installed it on my home computer, and I made all the signage for the video store, like all the internal inside the store signage. So yes, I made some really crappy clip art signage. $5, 5 movies, 5 days. Oh, let me tell you, that was like one of our hits. Everybody wanted catalog videos. 5-day rental, $5, 5 of them. They loved it. Also, they could remember it, so they loved that 5 for 5 for 5. And so, yeah, we had signage up to let people know about that. We also had signage that also told them how much new rentals were. I think at the time they were $3.25 for 2 days. And it was the late 90s, y'all. So my point just being, if I made the signage, then the cost was simply the paper and the ink I printed it on, and I had already paid for the software. I didn't have to pay a subscription for the software to use the software. So again, it's a one-time cost, and then I have it, and then it depreciates. It's something I can actually depreciate on my taxes versus you cannot depreciate a subscription. Aha! Are you starting to see it? You starting to see this? Oh,
Taxes are a really important reason to start thinking of what you're doing as a business, even if you think it's a hobby.
Yes. So again, like Canva does have free. But if you want to get the professional subscription, I just want to point out, it doesn't depreciate in value. You cannot depreciate it on your taxes. It's just an operating expense. So it's something to think about. I'm not trying to talk anybody in or out of anything on how they're running their book business. But I just want to help you with the philosophy of how all my businesses survived when every single person, y'all, every single person told me from the very start, your business ideas will never survive, Glory. And that was actually why I started the video store, because people have been telling me my whole life that my business ideas were too off the wall. And Tom and I decided to go into business together to see if my business ideas had merit, had feet. Tom was also interested in because he's like, but your business ideas sound really good and sound. And I'm like, see, I think so too. But everybody tells me that's not, you can't run business that way. And so instead of getting a business degree, we decided to open a store and try out our business ideas as a lab. This was the theory. And we were like, okay, we'll just sign a 1-year lease. But I rewrote the lease before I signed it. So it was a 1-year lease, but then it would automatically extend out to up to 5 years, only if I wanted it, not if the landlord didn't want it. Yeah, guess who did not read the lease I wrote? The landlord. She found that out the hard way 3 years in. But anyway, her problem. But my point being this. We found out that our ideas of business actually were quite sound. Everybody told me that we were wrong, that we had no idea what business really is, and that was why I wanted to start the video store, to try out these ideas. We found out our ideas are actually incredibly sound, and that is why I'm sharing them with you now, because I have the confidence that I didn't used to have when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, because I started the video store when I was 21. So, I didn't have the confidence back then. Yes, Charlie.
From a retail perspective, and it's a valuable thing to help you in your writing business as well. If you cannot make back 3 to 5 times what it costs you wholesale to buy an item, you will lose money on it. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that in a retail setting is because you have to pay for the rent for the place that you're at, the employees, electricity, all of that stuff, right? All of that has to be pulled out of that money too. The same is true with your own books. Your wholesale costs are not just how much it costs you to buy in bulk from KDP or wherever you're getting your books printed from to bring with you. Your wholesale costs actually include how much you're paying for your covers, your editing, everything like that, that also has to be recouped. And you may be thinking, well, why would I have to make back 3 to 5 times as much? Well, how are you going to get the word out? You're probably going to advertise. That's going to add overhead to what you're doing. You're probably going to go to an event and try to get people to know that you exist
Your
outside
gas
of the local
counts to the
community.
event. Your gas to and from your
Yeah.
food when you're eating it there because you can't be home eating your food. All of that counts.
Also, an additional one that people don't think about and don't talk about,
Your
and
audio is pretty loud, Tom.
how about now? Is that better?
That's
Yep.
good.
And another part people don't think about, but anyone who's run a business for any length of time is very acutely aware, as we have seen this past year. Inflation's real. It happens. It is just part of society. So if you are not making more than just recouping your costs,
Mm-hmm.
including paying yourself, you have no money to expand, let alone pay for future cost increases. And so that's why they always say if you are not growing, you're dying in business.
So for instance, when we were looking at a location to set up the video store, we were shown by friends, family, realtors, several commercial locations. And we were shown everything between $3,000 a month rental cost to $350 a month rental cost. And I really thought about it, and it was like, okay. I looked at what we actually did was we bought someone else's video store. They were wanting to get out of the business. We bought their video store. But before I actually signed for the transfer, I wanted to look at their books and what their intake actually averaged out to about $250 per rental. And I thought, okay, so that is more than likely like what we can expect as well, is to make about $2.50 per video rental. When you average out the cheap ones and the new ones, that's what you're going to get. And I looked at how many rentals I have to make a month just to pay rent, not including electricity, not including paying taxes and paying myself and everything else, and paying for paper and all the like little things, as well as paying for the movies. And I'm like, do you realize how many videos I have to check out to people in a month? $3,000 rent? No, but Blockbuster's not even quite running that much. I mean, I literally went and I talked to Blockbuster, and the manager's like, I can't actually tell you my numbers, but I can tell you that is a very good rental number. If you can make, like, because I said, how much do you rent something like, say, over 1,000 movies a month? And he's like, good months, yes. Bad months, I can't say no, but I'm not, like, look at my face there, I'm good, like. So again, yes, guess what? I went with the 350 one. Now in retrospect, I wish I had actually gone with the 475 one. It was a slightly better location. I thought advertising could make up for the poor location, and it turns out, well, yes, it can. It took me a couple of years to find a good advertising strategy, and therein lied the problem. But in the meantime, that's honestly what, like, if I could redo it, I would have gone with the one rental up expense. But it's one of these of, look at your operating expenses. How many books do you have to sell just to pay for your website? And any subscriptions you have per year, like, say, Canva or Adobe or whatever you're spending on. How many books do you have to sell? That doesn't even count paying yourself. So it may be like, what I found was once I started saying that to other business owners, it started clicking into their head about how much product do you have to move in what of it to cover your regular monthly operating expenses. And is that reasonable amount? It may be that it's not really reasonable, at least say the first 1 to 4 years of your operating this business, that is not actually a reasonable amount of products you need to move in a month. So if you look at your expenses and you look at, okay, how many books could I reasonably sell a month? If you go talk to other writers who are similar ilk as you, and they're telling you, I on average sell 10 books a month, or on average I sell 100 books a month. And you ask, well, at what point did you start doing that? Like, was it the first year you were selling 100, or was that you didn't get to that till like the fourth year? Like, where is it? But if the answer is, okay, they're selling 100 a month, but it took them 4 years to get there, what were you selling the first year each month? And the answer is 3. Okay. We are talking about throwaway money then. What is your hobby money? You know, hobby money. So instead of you going out to buy like nice, cute little coffees, you could spend it on your hobby. You know, instead of buying yourself new
little doggy bread biscuits
little doggy
when you go for a walk by the bakery because your dog has an addiction to street bread.
Well, yeah, like, or little doggy outfits, because does your dog really need that many more outfits? I mean, maybe at garage sales, yeah. Like, there's discretionary money. And so, yeah, your first year, look at it as, well, what do I have just like my mad money?
That it doesn't matter if it ever comes back or not. This was just fun for the experience.
Or what my mother used to call shits and giggles money.
Yep.
It's such a weird phrase, y'all. What is up with the Midwest? But yeah, like who poops and giggles? But okay. what? But anyway, like, but it may be, and like, let's be honest, if you're maybe a college student, or maybe you're starting over in life, you're a single parent, maybe shits and giggles money is $5 a month. I promise you, you can publish a book on $5 a month.
Yes.
It's not going to be maybe the book that you're like, behold my book, but it's going to be I have it, it's available on Amazon, you can go get that now. So at least it's something, and you can start like establishing yourself. And that is all that matters, my sweets. But maybe your, mad money, as I would like to say, because YouTube's like, don't curse too much, Glory. Okay, fine. Maybe your mad money is $30 a month. That puts you in a very different bracket. Still, how much of your $30 a month that, you don't care if you ever see again, you could honestly like throw it into the air and put it into a river and never see it. Oh, well, that was fun. Maybe you don't want to spend all of it. Maybe you only want to spend $15 a month of your mad money on your book business. And the other 15, you would still like to buy a nice, pretty little coffee or a nice, sweet, delicious little pastry every month, to feel a little special, a little something, something. Think about it that way. Because your first year, statistically speaking, you're not making your money back. And that's true of all businesses. Okay. I am not trying to talk you out of it. I am being realistic. And I honestly think this shouldn't talk you out of it. Me saying only spend your ad money your first year on your book business, because realistically, you're not going to sell much, should not talk you out of this. If it does, I'm like, look, I'm going to be a little bit mean here. I don't think you're really that committed to this.
Also create what I like to call kindness baskets. They're some of the most important things that you can do. Clay Shirky and others have really put forward this idea of building your 1,000 true fans, and then you're kind of set in golden. And that is true. If you understand that by true fan, he means somebody who is willing to pay 1 day's wages to you a year. That is the definition of a true fan, which one means you need to have enough product out there that people can give you. I believe when he originally did the math, that was $125 a year. I believe was the math that he worked on in his original calculations.
So we're not talking about people who work at fast food.
But I'm just saying this is the numbers.
Because the take home down here for people who work at fast food, like, they're happy if they could take home $40, $45, is it now? $45 a day take home after taxes.
So the main thing that I'm trying to hit home here is One, if you don't have enough product out there for them to spend that money, have a basket that they can just toss the rest in to you. One of the
Ko-fi,
best
Patreon,
Kofi,
something.
Patreon, something. One of the best things that we ever did, one of the best business things, like the most profitable piece of fiction I ever did, is available nowhere. I'm sorry, the cat is moving the balls.
I love it. Please sing me the song of your people, my sweet.
Anyway,
Ah!
we one year I had signed a deal and was doing a digital exclusive series, and so I had nothing new to bring to the conventions with me. So I wrote an original short story. We got a really nice printer and binder, which cost us, I think, at the time, it was maybe $150, $200 to get these two things. It was a ringed binder. It had the hole punch, and then you fed the thing in, and it clipped them into place. And we printed up a bunch of these short stories, and we brought them to the convention with us. We were selling them for $5 a piece, which means it was costing us about 75 cents a piece to make them. We were selling them for $5 a piece. We were going to make our money back if we could sell a decent number of them. We ended up having to print more because, one, they sold really well, which was great because everybody was talking about them at the convention. But because we didn't immediately tell people how much they were, people would hand us a $10 bill, take it, and leave. They would hand us a $20 bill, take it, and leave. Even when I tried to tell a couple of them, they're like, "Oh no, it's just $5," and they're like, I know you're writing. It's fine. Keep it." Tips actually are a thing for writers. We don't talk about it because it's a weird thing to think of yourself as being in a service industry. But we are. There are conventions that I go to that if I do not have a book, there are people there that will just hand me a $20 bill and say down payment on future books. And then they won't let me give them a future book when I have it because they're like, "You have to pay for this one."
So here's real quick, just a little bit for your mental imagination to understand. Where's the difference between product and service? And that is, a book itself that they buy from a bookstore is a product.
Yep.
The book they buy from the author at an event is a service because it is an experience. They are having the experience of actually being able to converse with the person who created this product. That is when it becomes a service. That is where tips come in. That is where bonus type stuff and bonus materials also come in. That's where you sign. That's where the writer signs the book and personalizes it to people. That's when it's a service, and that's where you see people start tipping because you are giving them an experience. You are not just giving them an item.
And that's where you can make up that deficit in product. Because if you make yourself available, you will be surprised how many people will throw money into either my Ko-fi or my Patreon, or have literally mailed me checks or handed me cash at an event just because they want to make sure I keep writing. It's their way of voting for me to get the next book out. They're just like, "I want a book. You haven't done one in a while. Are you feeling okay? You look a little peckish. Here, get something nice. Treat yourself. Treat yourself money. I need a book." And that's what you're going for, is those true fans that are going to support you. And they do exist. It's magic.
At sci-fi fantasy conventions, we used to get a vendor table, and we would put anything and everything on the table that we could legally sell. Like, y'all, sometimes it was random stuff. Sometimes it was, quite honestly, a garage sale.
There was a wholesale candy store we go to. What's the most interesting candy we can get?
Oh, there was some weird stuff from China. You remember that?
There was I kid you not, you cannot find these anymore.
You can't find them, it's illegal.
But I just want you to imagine like a bubble gum or a Tootsie Pop. Oh no, blow pop. Imagine a blow pop one, but now it's got a handle on it and it's a soft plastic. And in the center, instead of gum, is just an opening straight through of that blow pop. And when
underneath,
when you squish the handle, out comes a gooey syrup that's flavored. Dude, it was as shaped like you think,
Yeah,
and as
because it had sides. So like
the handle was much smaller than the hard popsicle part.
and it was dome
candy pop.
shape, and it looked exactly like you think, in a variety of colors, a bright color, candy colors, like So there was raspberry and strawberry. There was grape. Grape was very
made for
popular among
kids.
certain demographics. Anyway, and then the goo that would come up, the sweet goo, was similarly flavored to match the flavor of the lollipop and not the head. Anyway, so yeah, like we would go to these international import stores, these wholesalers, and we would buy anything that looked interesting. And then we would sell it at a vendor table at the Sci-Fi Fantasy Convention to pay for us to attend the Sci-Fi Fantasy Convention, including the hotel, cost. Okay. When on Saturday evenings and Sunday at the vendor tables, when we started really running low on things, people would just hand us money. Say, here, have you made your money back for the convention? And we'd be like, well, we almost got there, but I guess we, just didn't quite have enough. They would just hand us 20s. Because they wanted us to come back, and they knew that we had a vendor table specifically just to pay for our expenses.
And also, because of the weird random stuff we would bring, but it was always fun. There was always an entertainment value. We made sure to increase their experience at the event.
Yeah, they had a great time.
Because then they got to play in public with this candy pop.
The candy pop.
These rings.
Or these flashy rings, like crowns, it was fun stuff. It was meant to be, entertainment toys for adults. It was fun.
But you can wear, and we by adults, we just mean literally grown-up people.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with this stuff.
These gold necklaces with these big old gold pendants that it very much looked like Run DMC had approved this message, sort of, and we were selling them for $1 or $2 per necklace. It was but they were thankful for the experience to be able to buy these products and look ridiculous at the Saturday evening party at the Sci-Fi Fantasy Convention. They wanted a fun time, and we helped them have a better time. As writers, we are doing something very similar for people. They're just looking for a break, for a little recess from their life, and to have a good time for a couple minutes, an hour or so. They don't have to think about the dirty dishes and how's Timmy doing in school. None of that matters.
All right, before we go to break, since Charlie will not be here for the next hour, probably at least.
Yeah.
Was there any other things you wanted to bring up real quick, for us to expand on later?
Essentially, make sure that you are not spinning yourself into the poorhouse. Too many writers are fixated on perfection, and they think that if they don't reach it, then they have failed somehow. Beta readers were invented for a reason, because writers are poor. Use your beta readers until you can afford a good editor, and then maybe even still, because they're going to be a good target audience for you to keep going forward with this. Always remember, the main thing that you are trying to do in this business, if you want to have it as a business, is build an audience, not sell books. The audience buys the books. You want to be attracting that audience. You want to be doing the things we've talked about in the marketing and the memes before to attract those people that are going to be interested in what you're doing, and give them that place where they feel safe, secure, and happy, whatever that means to them in your genre and in what you're doing. In that way, they will be devoted to you. Look at the following that Neil Gaiman has. It's not just that he is a great writer, which he is. I love his books. But with his Tumblr account, his Twitter account, and all of the public speaking that he does, he's Uncle Neil. I mean, he's got this personality where you don't feel so much like he's this stranger. He feels almost like somebody that you know, because he's answering people's asks on Tumblr. He's responding to people on Twitter. He is there and gives you that connection to him that you don't have for other writers of that same generation, and thus gets a lot more fan support and devotion. We're willing to give him a lot of leeway that even though American Gods was, that's a thing that happened, we didn't immediately riot when they're like, okay, so one of the best projects you ever worked on with one of the greatest writers who ever lived, you're taking that to Amazon? Like, we didn't riot immediately. We're just like, we trust you, Neil. You're not going to let this be too bad because you know the legacy you're working with here, right? We're willing to give him that leeway and that support because we feel like we have a connection with him. Don't abuse your parasocial relationships, but realize that you have them and that you are building them with your business. And that's really what this is about. We talk way too much to other writers and we're not reaching out to readers. You need to be doing both. And yeah, always keep an eye on your ROI. Always and forever. Hopefully I will be back before you all are done, but yeah.
I hope so too. If only for your sake, because you know what I think of committee meetings.
Meetings are fun.
I mean, I want to see you for my sake too, but you know.
Yeah.
Alrighty, if not, I'll see you all in Unicorn Council later.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
All right, y'all. Now is a wonderful time to make sure you have something to drink, because the brain needs liquid. Is it snack time? Tom went and got donut holes. And I haven't eaten this. I wish they were. I mean, these are really good. I'll say that. These are delicious. But they are not little field Timbits.
Hey, Jen.
I love Timmy Hortons. Hello.
Yes,
and when we come back, What?
Go on.
And when we come back, we will show you the website I was talking about that I think is a wonderful resource for writers in general, but also we can examine their analysis of the cost of self-publishing.
And then we can talk with Laura, who is just in the middle of doing this very thing.
And she can compare and contrast their research with her own personal experience. So this will be exciting. So
I'm one of those writers obsessed with perfection. All those fun monies, all of it funnels right into this publishing.
Look, if it's giving you the dopamine and you're keeping a budget,
yep,
it's a good use of time.
Laura's like, I'm not going to say anything. La, 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 la,
I paid off my credit card this month.
Yay.
Which is
I'm absolutely worthy of applause. Absolutely.
So I'm not going into debt for publishing.
Good rule.
Excellent. All right, y'all. We'll see y'all in a few minutes when we do a little sprinty sprint.
What happened? Glory's gone. Hello. You're back.
Oops, it's still muted. Sorry about that. I had technical difficulties.
How dare your electricity not work on demand?
On the and even this reset, it was when it rains, it pours. Well, it hasn't quite been 10 minutes, but shall we go ahead and get back to things?
Sure.
Okay. I should put my donut away. Yeah, like I saw that I popped out, and then StreamYard wouldn't let me get back in, and I actually had to close down my entire browser and reopen it. And then StreamYard was like, "We'll get to it eventually." So, beep a beep, boop a beep, boop a boop, boop a boop, boop. Okay. All right. Let us see. Do. Let me find the link. Here we go.
Hey, Nia.
Hello, Nia. All right. All right. And here is the link in the chat now. There it is, so that you have it. All right. We're going to scroll. So they've got a couple scenarios. And their first one is self-publishing budget under $500. Developmental edits free with some help from your friends, workshops, class, etc. Copy editing $300. You can get it done by a college student. Cover design $30. You can purchase cover art and do it yourself. I got to be honest, I'm not entirely sure where you're gonna find any cover for $30, but okay, sure.
If it's only for like an ebook, I think you can get one on Fiverr.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't need a spine and a back.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's good to know. Book formatting and layout free. You can use free conversion tools. That part is true. I've seen those. And printing free. You can print only on demand. And I think what they're talking about is essentially like the equivalent of ebooks. Of if the person wants, they can get it printed, like from like Amazon.
Yeah.
Well, you as the writer don't have to print them out and mail them.
Right.
And then ISBN, don't get one. I like the underline, don't get one. Oh, good. Author, huh?
It was just feedback.
Oh, sorry. Author photo free. You could use your Facebook profile picture. I like the assumption that one's okay. Marketing free only by relying on social media, friends, and family. And website free. You can use free WordPress option. So this is their interpretation of this article's interpretation of self-publishing for under $500. To be perfectly honest, like cover design wise, you can just do it on Canva for free. Mm-hmm. And that, so truthfully, you really don't have to spend that. Copy editing, I want to point out, technically speaking, you don't have to pay for a copy editor. You can do it yourself. Will it be that good? I guess it depends on your own copy editing skills.
I mean, maybe run it through one of the better ones like Grammarly or something, if you have access.
But
I keep getting breathe and breath mixed up on spelling right now as I write, and it's like, I'm not trusting myself with copy editing.
Don't worry, your readers won't be any better.
Trust me on that. Also, to be perfectly honest, for that one, you may be able to catch it with when it reads it out loud.
Yeah.
But let me be honest. You can ask family and friends to help you with copy editing. Usually there's somebody who's pretty good with grammar and attention to detail, like in any social group. I mean, of course, I could be speaking out of my rear side, but usually there's somebody who has a decent grasp to help. Let's see. Jen writes, Romance said, for an ebook, deposit photos in Canva work great. They have specials every year on Great Photo Package. You can also use those free photo services, like what is it, Unsplash and
Pixabay.
Pixabay. I was like, it's not Pixelator, that's the software. But yeah, thank you, Tom. Like, there's a couple. If you have some kind of idea of what you want to do, you can honestly get photos there and then manipulate them in Canva for your cover design again. And you can later do another cover design.
Oh, yeah.
Sales increase, or maybe grandma gave you a very nice check for Christmas and you're like, I'm going to spend it on a new book cover. Okay, that's your business. You can spend it on a new book cover and get like something made that you're like, yay, I know exactly who I want to hire. Cool. But again, I really want to stress that I am biased. I really agree with myself about spend what you can afford. Do not overspend, especially your first 2 to 4 years in the book business. And what I mean by in the book business, I do not mean when you are writing your first book. I mean, once you have your first product, your first book or story or whatever available for purchase, or your first, maybe you're doing the Substack route where people can pay to subscribe, and that kind of thing. Whatever, once you have something where people can give you money and receive something, they're not just donating to the charity that is your rent, but once you have something to exchange for the cash, that is the start of your business. And I'm really advocating of only spend what you can afford to just flush away for a minimum of the first 2 years, if not the first 4 years, in part so you don't cry a lot at night over the money, but also so that you're not stressing out. And should like your resources, your finances suddenly change, and let's be honest, life is unexpected. You're not in the hole for a financial obligation for, say, oh, well, but I've got this contract for this website for the whole rest of the year, but I'm no longer making money. And so you're having to take it out of your own budget, that you're not experiencing that. So it's just something to think about, because I want everybody to enjoy this. Business is a lot more fun when you're not, worried that you're going to have to like change how you buy groceries. Playing at a hobby business is so much fun when you're not having to make personal lifestyle sacrifices. So I want you all to have a good time, because quite honestly, business is so much fun. I absolutely loved running the video store, and I loved the home party business. Do you know how good it feels when people give you cash? Like it's like, yay, you like what I have, yay. You enjoyed spending time with me, yay. Jen writes, Romance says, I paid a lot more than needed for my first book, and no, I do it differently looking back. Love the cover I paid for at the time, but the rest could have been done differently. Exactly.
Like, yeah, if you have a particular idea you want for a cover and you can't find any way to do it and you can pay, then it's, you are gifting yourself, your business, this cover because
that's perfectly fine.
It makes you happier.
Exactly. Like, that is a perfectly fine thing. Nia points out there are some simple cover designers on Fiverr for under $50. Exactly.
Yeah.
They charge more for exclusive or copyright images. Yeah. So there are ways to do it on a low budget or a no budget. What my mom and I did for our first book, our cookbook together, was, as I said, what we did for our cover was we designed it ourselves and literally sourced the materials, i.e., every time we grocery shopped for 3 months, I would bag all the groceries while Mom would check out, and I would just grab a whole handful of extra grocery bags and put it in the cart with the first couple groceries. And then we went home and we very carefully took apart the grocery bags along the seam. And this is, so if you're young, you don't know that paper grocery bags used to be made of very nice, durable quality, like this sort of very heavy duty construction paper. Like very heavy, not like cardboard, but very nice and durable. And so we just very carefully took them all apart, which took us a couple weeks of in our spare time at home, taking them apart, putting them out, and then spacing out the sizing for the cover, and then hand crumpling every one of these after we'd sent it through the printer. Handmade. It was truly handmade bookshelf. But again, it saved us upfront cost. And this was essentially our mother-daughter hobby for 5 months. Yes, exactly. Before they started to break with any extra weight. Yeah, these were the good ones. Like, it was, I think it was the Piggly Wiggly, Tom? Was the one, do you remember the Piggly, was it the Piggly Wiggly that had the best grocery bag?
That was the one that was closer to our South 16th place.
Yes.
That would be Piggly
along
Wiggly.
That main drag. Remember up at the top is that convenience store where we love to get hot dogs and those ice cream sandwiches?
Yeah.
And then down in that little valley was the strip mall where the grocery store was. That was, the Piggly Wiggly was the one that had the best. Yes. Nostalgia time, y'all. Talking about Oxford, Mississippi in the mid-90s. But yeah, that was what we made our covers out of. So again, we had zero cost on the covers except for the red ink, which we technically did not pay for. Thanks so much for financing our book unofficially, Johnny Morgan, who did not know. And this is the very first evidence he's ever had that he did that. Please don't send this to him. Okay, y'all? Please don't. I don't know how he is anymore. All right. So the next scenario. Listen to this. If you have in mind to spend a fortune on your book publication, you can spend up to $20,000. I just want you to know, I personally think this is how to launder money. If you need to launder money, what a great way to do it with your book. Okay. So here we go. Developmental edits, $3,000. Copy editing, $1,500. Cover design, $800. I don't even know if traditional book publishers pay that much, honestly. Book formatting and layout, $1,500. Printing, $4,000 for 500 trade paperbacks. ISBN, $100, which I don't think if you're just buying for one set of books in America, it costs that much.
Oh, yes, it does.
Oh, it's up to fucking hell. I'm sorry. I did not mean to curse there. That really was unplanned. Author photo, $400. Kirkus review, $425. I didn't know that you could pay for Kirkus review, but
yep,
that's a mood.
It's Google, a 300-word review.
Theatrical eye roll insert here. Google AdWords, $500. Facebook ads, $500. Print advertising, $1,200. Marketing collateral, $1,000.
What does that even mean?
What?
What is marketing collateral?
So you have to pay upfront the company, but they may refund you if the ads do not reach that many people.
Okay.
So you have to pay this up front, but
It's
this
like
may
a
not be your
deposit.
actual cost.
But you may not get it back. So just expect not to get it back.
Yeah.
Marketing consultant / PR, $2,000. Event / launch party, $1,000. Website, $2,000. And there is a note below here. Most of self-published authors have an average earning of $10,000 a year. The book is considered a product, so you have to invest in the visibility and quality of your product. Even though your product is a great one, beautifully written, and with a professional presentation, you have to get in front of everybody, not only online. All right. And then here we go. A reasonable price for smart self-publishing is about $4,000. Now, y'all know I personally disagree with this, but we're still going to go over it. So this is what they're saying, and it's probably not just this article. This is more than likely sort of a industry consensus about this. Hello, Eva. About what, like, if you want to launch a book. But again, I want to point out, this is like if you have money to burn. I'm going to say this, though, about the $4,000 price tag. Most people in the middle income bracket. So 15 years ago, the upper part of that was like $125,000 a year. I think it's now risen to more like $200,000 a year. But most people who were in the truly smack in the middle of the middle class, so they're definitely making more than $80,000 a year, consider it normal to spend upwards of $8,000 a year on their hobby. So somewhere between $6,000 and $8,000 a year, because I used to be a bookkeeper, and I did a lot of bookkeeping, not just for wealthy folks, but also middle-class folks. I actually did a accountancy for a surprising number of officers in the military who they didn't want to have family arguments with their wives or husbands. And so it was just easier to pay me to come in and take all the receipts and put it in their bookkeeping and then send it to their accountant. And one of the things I noticed was they all tended to spend about $6,000 to $8,000 a year on hobbies. For the one person, not the other. The other person also spent the same. So a $4,000 price tag on self-publishing a book is actually not that exorbitant for people in an $80,000 or $100,000 to $200,000 income bracket. So I actually don't think this is so bad, but I still am more like, but why spend it when you could like do less? But anyway, it's okay. Again, I'm not judging anybody. If you are spending this, good. I'm glad you have the money to do it. This is a great hobby. So here we go. Developmental edits, $1,000. And remember, developmental is helping you like really craft the story from the start. So yeah, $1,000 is probably a pretty reasonable amount considering how much time your editor is needing to spend with you.
Eva's comment is thousands on the low end of average.
Yeah.
For developmental.
Copy editing, $800. Cover design, $300. Book formatting and layout, $300. The last I heard that's actually around $300 is probably approximately what the going rate was about 3 years ago. Printing, free. You can print it only when you have demand. ISBN, $100. Author photo, $100. I'd honestly pay a little bit more for that. I don't know. Total marketing spend, $1,000. Website, $100. You can use custom WordPress theme. Honestly, a custom WordPress theme does not cost $100. And depending on your luck or the friends you have, you can find great marketing help for just a couple $100. You might spend about $2,000 on a developmental edit, but you can also find a student that for just $500 will do your final proofing. So I just wanted to like show that again. I'm not poo-pooing or encouraging on this. It's just more like, hey, y'all, this is based on one person's research. And honestly, several of the prices we saw seem to be approximately industry standards. There are services like BookFunnel that will help with when you are trying to send your books out, like a link to your ebooks for review. And when I checked at the beginning of the pandemic, it was like BookFunnel at the time had a really nice deal, a sweetheart deal, that for $100, they would essentially not only establish that so that there would be a download link for anybody who had the specific link for the ebooks for reviews, but they would also help connect you with their network of book reviewers and see essentially if you had any takers among their network of book reviewers who were interested in reviewing your book. And that your link would be good for about a year. So you could also send it. And it was like, I know the $100 was for like 100 downloads of your ebook. And for something like $20, you could get like an extra 400 downloads or something. Like it was
Nice.
a pretty decent deal, honestly. As well as to help connect you with that network of thousands upon thousands of potential book reviewers who have their own blogs and who have their own readership. So again, like there are ways to advertise and to get the word out about your book if you're interested that are very affordable. And honestly, I think BookFunnel, I originally heard from Sarah Sutton. That's what she used, one of the services she used to launch her first 2 books when she was just getting started with her romance novels. Eva says, once upon a time, it was $2,000 for Vanity Press versions of a manuscript, no editing or marketing. Then came along access to self-publish online. It is expensive, but the options to pass those barriers is wonderful for access. It's hard to fight the indie stigma, but also good books aren't fighting it once they are seen. True. So that 1,000 marketing budget is something that go a long way. It would go a very long way. Yeah, BookFunnel, BookPub. I thought there was a bub something. All of those seem great from what I hear from authors, especially romance authors. Right. I've heard it from romance authors. I've heard good stuff from mystery authors as well. They've had good success with those services. And also, I want to point out there's NetGalley as well. I am still getting emails from NetGalley. I have not been a librarian in like 4 years. And I am still getting emails from NetGalley on a regular basis going, hey, you've been selected to receive a free ebook for this author. Da, da, da. If you are interested, go to NetGalley to your account and download the book. So with NetGalley, they vet who can join NetGalley. Like you need to be a book reviewer or a librarian or a teacher. You essentially need to be in the profession of books, but book reviewers are also part of that. You get vetted by NetGalley to set up your account. Once your account is set up, you can then ask to download all these various books that are available in a bajillion subjects. And they ask, but it is not required for you to give a review on NetGalley, let alone they would love it if, you like it, to recommend it to your readers. However, you interact with readers. You are not required to give, or at least at the time, the last time I used NetGalley, you're not required to give a review. However, I will say this, I downloaded a ton of books. Now, your download, usually most of them, like authors can actually set it up, like whether when you download, you've got a couple days to a couple weeks, or it's like has unlimited forever. Like it just depends on each author, what they set up for their ebook download for these, the people in NetGalley. But you can interact with the author or, the publishing company. And so every time I ever sent feedback to whoever had put that book up, I have only ever received wonderful customer service. So usually when I sent feedback, it was, hey, the ebook was weirdly formatted and I couldn't make out the pictures because I only got a little corner of this enormous picture and it wouldn't let me shrink it, da-da-da-da-da. Or thanks, I really enjoyed it and I'm looking forward to, telling my patrons about it. Every time, and no matter whether it was a positive or negative feedback, people were really sweet. It was usually authors, but sometimes it was publishers who were like, thanks so much for your feedback. if you're interested, we'll like make it accessible. You can access all our other books too. Like everybody was really nice on NetGalley. So my experiences have only been positive on NetGalley. Overall. Now, some publishers I'll ask like, oh, I really would like to download this book and look at it because it was something like, for instance, our library was considering buying. And the publisher said no to me. And I'm like, never mind. So like you can just set the term. Like the download only works for 2 weeks. You know, I can only look at the ebook for 2 weeks. It's not like I can't give it to patrons or anything. What is your problem, book? People are funny. So do be aware that NetGalley is definitely, I would say, a customer service situation. So again, I would say, remember this essentially is B2B and be on your good behavior. If you're going to put your products on NetGalley, understand that it's like, these are people who make purchasing decisions, you know, librarians and teachers and even other publishers and potential book distributors and bookstore sellers are also on there. So if people do send you feedback, remember that customer service matters. So try your best to interact in a positive way. That's all I would say. But as I said, NetGalley worked great. And I do recommend NetGalley. Let's see. Yes, I sometimes get emails from BookBub with the discounted books, and I like those. Yes, I like that service. Hello, Kayla.
Canoe. They go by Cole now.
He was a thanks for I just got it. Oh, cool. Oh, Cole. Okay. I will try to remember. Oh, What Devilry Is This by Sam Cheever? Let's see. 45-year-old divorcee Aggie Lenore just wants to open her own candle shop. She buys a church in Tiny Rome, Indiana. She becomes guardian to magical creatures, a hilarious paranormal novel that's first is it. That does actually sound fun. Speaking of, that reminds me of the other reason we wanted to share that link with y'all. We thought this website would be an excellent resource for writers. So, look at these articles. Check, would you, storage container rental costs, sawgrass cost, Amtrak shipping cost, household monthly garbage bill costs, land survey costs. Okay. So.
And there's a sublet of just business startups.
Clown license cost. I bet you didn't know there were costs to being a clown, and neither did I.
I did not.
But there is a whole article that goes into this. I think this is a wonderful resource for writers who are like, maybe it's cost to open a skating rink. Maybe you want to set your novel at a skating rink. Look, here's the cost so that you can drop a few of these details in and it will help with your world building. How cool is that? Cost to open a hookah bar. It's never occurred to me, but now I'm wondering. Cost to open a Popeyes franchise. Have you ever wondered what is the cost to get an ice cream truck? I have now. Dutch Brothers coffee franchise cost. I don't even know who these people are, but I'm curious. A 85 Degrees Bakery franchise cost. I've never even heard of this place, but okay, yes. What does it cost?
What's a personal butler cost?
I have no idea, but now I shall read the article. Cost to open a restaurant. All sorts of things. Nail technology school cost, because maybe one of your characters is a nail technologist. Here we go. Dollar Tree and Dollar General franchise costs. Cost to make a low-budget movie. Think of the world building, my friends.
But I mean, if you want to write about this stuff, it's hard to find a lot of this info.
Yes.
Also, another one I saw that, I love bringing up because I just thought it was hilarious if I'd never thought of. What is the cost to get your dog acupuncture? I didn't even think of this as an option, but this is actually a profession. And again, these are, there it is, acupuncture for a dog. You can add these little details in to make it a much more real, lived-in world, and give your characters more realistic problems that anyone who might be in that industry will feel more seen and real, and more likely to recommend it, because this is not just
How about
fantasizing.
the cost of a broken dog leg treatment?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have read novels, romance usually, where a little doggy breaks a leg and, romance at the veterinary office starts, right? But, yes, what does it cost? Because I need to include that to make my book seem realistic, right?
Gotta take my Cerberus in.
Right.
Because most of these costs, they purposely do not put online. You have to
Right.
talk to that company to find out. And you don't know if that is average, high, or low. These people tend to do a bit more research around to find what are the average prices.
What is a dog pregnancy test cost? I don't know. But think about, again, I've read more than a few romance novels where one of the hooks was two people romance over a pregnant dog. Maybe one person was a breeder and the other person would like to get a puppy of this breed, and romance ensues. Yes, what is the cost of a pregnancy test for a doggy? I don't know, but it may be somehow is the importance where the person who wants to get a puppy is like, why so much? And they're like, oh, there's costs. Da, 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 da. Well, now you know the cost without having to actually talk to a vet clinic. So I think that's really cool. I just was like, this is such a cool resource for writers.
You know what resource I would like that would never be available online?
What you got?
Police response times
Hmm.
in different areas. How long does my character have to hold out against a serial killer before the cops show up? After they've called 911 already.
Oh, there are researchers, though, who have put that info out.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can find it sometime, because, I know I've heard
Yeah,
several.
I've known several people who were getting degrees in criminal justice who actually talked about these are real statistics and they had access to them. And talking about, you would not believe. Oh, tell me, what is the response time?
Mm-hmm.
The cost of blazers. Okay, what? Prom dress alteration costs. I mean, I've actually, again, read novels where this was an aspect, especially a coming of age, where somebody's going to go to the prom because somebody's given them a dress, so because their family maybe doesn't have much money, and they've got to get it altered. I have no idea how much this stuff costs. Oh, here's an article for you if that is something you want to include in yours. The cost of y'all, it's the cost of socks. Holiday hair prices. Oh, the price conscious salon. Interesting.
Hey, Laura, enjoy the link I sent. It includes response times based on the felony, as well as you can look it up by city.
Spine tattoo costs. It has never occurred to me, but now, yes, I'm a little bit curious. Fursuit costs. Well, here we go.
You cannot be broke and get a fursuit.
That is true. That is true. The cost
in other words,
to solder rings together. MAC makeup appointment costs. All of these costs. Just to point out, the cost of weddings.
Because
how much does an ice luge cost? I don't know.
Because also then these little details can inform you more about the characters, such as, if someone has a fursuit but says they are broke, it still indicates they have to have so much income, at least at some point, to have obtained this. And so the question is, how did they have this income if they have no money? Or, if they have an ice luge at their event, they say they have no money. how did they obtain this then? Because it costs around this much. What does it tell you about their background?
Mm-hmm. To get married at Biltmore. That's a big thing in the South. Open bar cost. That's definitely a certain income bracket. A Publix wedding cake cost. Fascinating.
Hey, Megan.
So, like, just as I said, I advocate for this website as a resource for writers. I think it would be very useful for everybody, and that's why I was excited to share this website that Tom found with y'all. Because it's a great resource for writers, but also, you know, one of my issues with people who are like, here, I have made a list of everything you need to do to self-publish a book and everything afterwards to market and promote it. And they're like, and now you need to give me $30 to $300. And I'm like, who did that? And the reason why is it's not very community building. You're more trying to profit off of this community rather than help build up this community. And while, yes, I want everyone to have their rent paid, I absolutely do. This is not taking up your time. It's just a simple little sheet of lists of things to do that if you do it once or twice, you would know it.
Say gatekeeping information is not cool.
As a librarian, I very much take issue with gatekeeping information because I am one of those people who advocates for curating information, but then freely distributing it to those who are interested. Because let me be really brutally honest about the problem with gatekeeping. It is an economic slow down response. When you gatekeep, whatever you're gatekeeping, you are slowing down the flow. And the universe does not like that. Because the universe must flow, my babies. So anytime you slow down the flow, anytime you're hoarding, whether it's knowledge or money or resources, it is in contravention of how the universe wishes it to be. And I take issue with that. I am definitely one of those people of let the information flow. I mean, obviously, I am advocating that because I'm giving all of my information and knowledge away for free. Nobody has to pay for this. You can. Did you know I have memberships? Did you know I have a Ko-fi account and I now have a Substack account? And I do have YouTube memberships. If you would like to tip me, you can. But I do not want it to be you have to give me money before I share with you all of my hard-earned knowledge, because it's knowledge and it needs to flow. It needs to be shared openly with a lot of people, because that is the only way the economics of everything will improve. The financial economics, the economics, the general happiness economics will not improve as long as we are gatekeeping all the knowledge, the resources, and the finances. Even it says, it's when people find a source they respect that they are willing to pay for it. I trust consumers as a group, but individuals should always shop intentionally after research. Exactly. I've only been paid for edits with my Ko-fi. Exactly. By the way, fantastic editor, I can personally say, because again, she edited for me and she did not charge me because I had no money to give her. And she still was happy to edit for me, and she did a freaking amazing job. And she also was really sweet about it too. I've had a couple editors who were rather brutal, and I was afraid that that's what would happen. And it was the exact opposite. It was a lovely experience. So it was very nice. She was also very complimentary. But again, I just want to point out how I'm trying to build community and encourage more writers to write, and encourage more writers to write by publishing their work and sharing it with others. And if I'm gatekeeping it, how's that going to happen? Eva says, I'm brutal. Don't listen to Glenn. she's a big old powder. No, she's quite adept, but but like not in a personal attack sort of way. Versus again, I've had editors take personal attacks at me, which I'm like afterwards, what the hell was that? So again, I just want you all to know that those resources are out there. They are available to you. And especially when you don't have to pay for access to the resources, that's even better. Because again, if one day you do have a little bit of resources to share, I hope you will. I totally agree with the Hello Dolly theme of money is like manure. It's not worth a bit of good if you're not spreading it around, encouraging young things to grow. That is how I feel about it. I absolutely agree with this sentiment. So I hope you all will too. Laura, what has been your experience with self-publishing so far?
So I wrote some stuff for the interior. I wrote some short stories and then was so excited. I hired an illustrator to paint the cover. No text, just the illustration for the cover. And so I've been hanging on to this piece of artwork for forever. And I couldn't get a spine or a back because like the book wasn't done yet. So I don't know how wide it's going to be. So yeah, I kind of jumped the gun. But it's gorgeous. I love it. So that was expensive, but I knew it was going to be. But this has been a 2-year process. So all of my expenses have been spread out over a while of getting the illustration, putting the down payment on the copy editing, doing the developmental edits, and now paying for the copy editing the rest of the way. I have been paying for interior illustrations a couple at a time on Fiverr because I'm going all out on this book, baby. So, yeah, I have it scheduled for formatting in like February. So I'll be paying for that then and need to put it all together and figure out when it's going to release because I still don't have a release date. But
what
yeah.
will like determine your release date, or is it more like you need so many things checked off before you can accurately estimate?
I need Tentacles and Boomboxes to be released in Lovecraftiana before I can publish it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to be, I believe, after April. So that's when I'll be in the clear with exclusivity clauses for all of my previously published works. So that's a factor. Other than that, it's more like scheduling out my book cover reveal and setting up pre-orders if I want to do pre-orders and things like that. So it should be ready to go in February. So I might do the reveal in April and publish it in May.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought process.
Another thing that isn't talked about a lot, but there is some truth and it's something to consider when you are publishing a book, is that there are times of year for that type of book.
Mm.
And you need to be aware of that timing. And to look at when to release it. This is why books and movies and creative arts sometimes get held back up to a year and occasionally 2 because you want to put it out.
Is it a Halloween movie? Is it a Christmas movie?
When the customers
or
are
is
interested
it
in
a
that
summer
type of movie.
read?
Like if you want a summer read, that means it's self-improvement, business, or general fiction, general contemporary fiction that people would read at a beach. Those are 3, or no, that's pretty much it, because it's also life advice, because it's stuff you get for people who are graduating, and it's stuff for people who read on a beach, and that's what they read. versus the beginning of the school year is when you get more of, school related fiction stories
That's true.
and young adult stuff, because people are just starting to pick up new books for that new school year. So
Also, they're going to release children's chapter books and middle grade books and YA books, coming of age stuff that involve school. They're going to release them in April and May, and then August, September, and October. Because just as children are wrapping up their school year, they're interested in getting ready for the next school year. Those thoughts of like, usually when they're going to transition to another school. So from elementary school to middle school or junior high, and then from junior high / middle school to high school, and then from high school to college. So that's why there's also an April and May release window as well, as far as at least how Scholastic does it. And I assume Scholastic does it this way because that's when it sells. Just going by years of those little Scholastic sheets as a teacher, handing those out and noticing what I could buy. And there's that whole subgenre of chapter books about like My Teacher's an Alien, or Wayside, those crazy things that are happening at the Wayside High, that kind of stuff. They always will put out new books and sell their back catalog on sale April and May, and then again August, September, and sometimes October. For October, it's the scarier school-related ones, and that's
the Halloween specials.
And so again, don't be afraid to, just because your book is ready to go out doesn't mean that this is the month to put it out. Sometimes you need to put more planning and look for when is the best time for people to be most receptive to this type of story.
Mm-hmm. Like also, I think short story anthologies have a season as well. Like
Christmas time.
Christmas time.
So October, November is a main time for them because people gift them to others.
I like them.
And also for New Year's.
I like to purchase them in late spring because, and maybe I'm the weird one for this, I like to read them over the summer because I tend to travel so much more in the summertime. And what I liked about short story anthologies is it was easy to pick up and then put down. So, because travel is a lot of stop and start, a lot of back and forth, and versus when I read novels, I do not want to be interrupted. And travel is nothing but interruptions. Let's see, Megan says, make your marketing efforts easier to yourself. Sell when the market is ready to buy. Or start selling right before, so that you have a campaign ready when people are ready to buy.
But Eva has an excellent point. I do plan to start the pre-order with the cover reveal. So they get excited when they see the reveal and it's already right there for them, so they don't have to remember it later.
And again, having a plan is what matters.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a plan. You can pants your marketing. Like, I know people like that. And their plans are not necessarily bad plans. Because, they're trying to cash in on their pantsing qualities. And so again, go with your strengths, whatever your strengths are.
And I mean, like, when you put your book out, helps if you are your own target audience versus if you're not your target audience. Go talk to your friends and family and everyone and start finding out who it is that likes to read this and ask them, what is their purchasing behavior? What do they tend to do? Like, is it something they tend to give as gifts, or is it something they tend to buy for themselves? And what's the time of year they do that?
Mm-hmm. So if I want to publish my vampire romance next year, I also got to figure out, because romance is different than horror.
Yes.
I think for timing and target audience. So, and cover style and everything.
I know that romance sells very well in the summer. particularly back catalog romance sells really well in the summertime and late spring. I think it's in part because the potential readers tend to have more free time because the kids are out of school. At least in theory, they're out of school. But I've heard that a lot, and I've heard that both from romance writers as well as from romance readers. I actually heard from one voracious reader, "Oh, I like to like save up all my romances to read in the summer," and I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "I don't know. I've got a bit more time, and it's really fun to tear through those in the summertime." It was something they were used to doing, and then now so they do it even though they no longer have to. Like they have more free time throughout the year.
Yeah, Jenna's there with you.
Jenna says, "Yeah, all of us teachers have time to read our real loves." Yeah. So yeah, and that the days get longer too. Ava says also since having a pre-order spoils the cover reveal and often the title can just be revealed on the perfect pre-order start date. True. Mm-hmm. It can be on Goodreads with a blank/default cover even sooner to get people to add it to their shelves. That's true. Good option for a title reveal since you've done the title already, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, like doing a minimal level of research on your book's reader, or target reader behaviors, probably a good idea for figuring out your timeline. But also at a certain point, if you're like, but I am not a planner. I don't like these things. I'm just going to pants it. I am talking about my ex-husband right now. Then just do what my ex-husband would do, which is got a box of books in the trunk and just...
and the other part is, this is your hobby.
It worked for him, y'all. And like, well, I thought this was a harebrained idea. The man sold a lot of things out of his trunk. I couldn't the cash he handed me. So,
another part, like I feel that sometimes people get distracted from and forget, is your first. If you want to be self-employed writing books, your first couple books are not what are going to pay your bills throughout the year. So consider your first couple books what they are. These are your training wheels. These are your first couple levels of adventuring. And so just accept, oh, I'm going to make every mistake under the book. And I hope I can make every mistake under the book with these few so that by the time I've got a back catalog and I'm ready to have something that people, talk to others about, that I've already made every mistake possible and I can just do things that work. I don't have to waste additional resources on stuff that ain't going to help.
Also, it's a good philosophy to have about do not allow perfectionism to roadblock you from publishing on a more natural schedule for you. I am the kind of person, I definitely deal with a lot of internal perfectionism. It's not a good thing. Like my kind of like there's attention to detail and then there's perfectionism. And I am talking about perfectionism, not attention to detail. Where I make up reasons to roadblock myself. Oh, well, I can't do it till this versus just get it done and then do, improve on it or innovate it later. And especially your first several books, since really, let's be honest, you haven't built up a market. You don't have a big, long list of newsletter subscribers or some other way to tell people who want to know about the next book of yours coming out that you have it coming out, however you look at that. Since you don't have a big market to draw on yet, you're not a name, even among people who want your stuff. This is the stuff where you're free to make mistakes. That's why, like with the video store, I wanted to start the video store to try out my ideas. And we really went into that expecting to fail. We were like, let's go and fail big. It's going to be great. But fail affordably was the point. Let us fail in a way we can afford to do and try out. And so the goal was this, okay? This was the goal. Let us see how many of our business ideas we can jam into this time period before we have to close the business because we cannot afford to keep it open anymore. Like, that was the plan, was let's jam in as many ideas as humanly possible into this experience before we have to close it because we can't afford to keep it open. That was the plan. And the problem was I had like put it on such a lean shoestring budget that even in our terrible ideas, and we had more than a few bad ideas, more than a few terrible ones actually, the ones we thought were going to be success, many of those were actually true failures. The business still was making enough that we could keep it open. Let's see, what was it? So I opened the business on October 31st. And December. By the end of December, it was paying all of its overhead expenses. It was paying its rent, its electricity. It was paying you have to pay these bills every month or the business is no more. It was by December, it was already paying those. January, it was still paying all the overhead because I wasn't paying myself yet. Tom wasn't being paid much yet either. Occasionally, he would draw out of it for gas and things. But we weren't really spending, we weren't paying ourselves yet. The only the next month it couldn't pay all its bills was April. So December, January, February, March, it paid all its bills. April, it didn't. And then May, we really thought it wasn't going to make it. And then the last week in May, Memorial Weekend, we almost ran out of videos to rent out to people. Like, so it paid for the rent. And then June, July, and on. And honestly, April was the one month it struggled to pay all its bills for the next 2 years. But other than that, it was more than paying all the bills, as well as paying enough to expand the business every month after that. And partly the reason why it was able to do that was because I had put it on such a shoestring budget from the start. So I really recommend trying that approach of only recurring costs that you can afford to float, even if, you don't do anything. Like we had to pay the rent whether we opened that day or not. That kind of thing. So it's something to keep in mind, just so that you can keep this endeavor going for a couple years. Because more than likely, most people are not going to stop wanting to write in 4 years. They're not going to be like, well, I've got no more stories in me. That is not most writers. Most writers honestly have a psychological compulsion to tell stories. Like, let me be honest, this is an avocation. We do not choose the writing lifestyle. The writing lifestyle has chosen us. And we just can't quite shake it. Maybe I'm just talking about myself. So if it's an avocation and we can't not write, let's make it so that no matter how bad things get, you can still write. You can still afford to find readers, because as writers, we love to know people are reading our stuff. Like, it is gratifying, isn't it? It feels good.
And also you then get to just play the games of what works, what gets people interested. You've got to, by next year, you'll have a book that's fully out there that you're happy with. You can share with everyone. It does not stop you from changing the cover of the book, from changing the contents of the book, from changing the markets you put the book available out, or how you market it or advertise it or anything. You now get to play with, where are the people for this book?
Yes, it's time to conduct human experiments. Technically not illegal or a war crime if it's in sales.
But it helps that,
that's what I found out.
With this.
It's not a war crime if it's sales.
Yeah. Yep. Or as, Eva puts it,
analytics.
But it helps so much if you're having fun with it. If you are desperate, on the other hand, like it's just like, I'm sorry, I can't think of a better one, but since the movies love to do this one, it's like dating. It's a hard time to find someone to date, let alone find good dates, if you are desperate.
Sure.
But if you're just there to have fun, you can have a lot of good dates, even if the other person's not someone you're ever going on a date with again.
Yeah, like if you're just like, I'm here to meet people. I just want to meet people. I'm here to like essentially have an interview over a meal of someone I did not know before today. You are far more likely to have a good time than if I have to find someone to marry this month or else I will lose my inheritance. I'm talking about the plot of what, a bunch of movies. Anyway. But nevertheless, if you're just here to have a good time, you are far more likely to have a good time and then to do it again. And that's what I'm saying about book business. Have fun. I absolutely love running businesses, y'all. But that's because I see it as fun rather than a burden. And so it's something to think about of, are you looking this as, I got to figure out how to sell a book versus, yay, I get to experiment on humans because it's not a war crime when it sales. And on that note, how about we do another little sprinty sprint? Give everybody time to check. Do you have something to drink? Do you have a little snacky snack?
I'm going to put dinner in the oven.
You have what?
I'm going to put dinner in the oven.
What you going to put in the oven?
Chicken strips and french fries.
Ooh, a classic. A delicious.
Crinkle cut.
Very nice. And on top of that, I also set up Laura's beautiful little Aurora Borealis timer for us to gaze at during our little sprinty sprint. So with that, we will see y'all in a few little minutes. Beep-a-da beep. Beep-a-da 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 beep. Boop-a-da boop. Boop-a-da 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 boop. And we're back. Oh, Tom would like me to show.
Lovely.
Was it smoked drumsticks and pork and a beef tenderloin?
Yeah, there's a beef tenderloin, and these are the drumsticks. Delicious. Okay. It's very heavy. It is a feast. I want you to come over. Come over and you too, Roy. Yes.
He will snap them up real quick.
Oh yeah. He will. And then he'll be like, rub my belly. It's full of smoked beef. Yes. Eva, you too. Come on over, honey.
Yeah, we have a lot of images of Cassie looking a little ill, but really it's just the images of her going, rub my belly.
Satisfied, but a little bit, because she knows her belly was full of meat. It's I was like, we normally did not give her, much human food, but we would give her like the cartilage ends on the drumsticks, the chicken, because it was good for her arthritis. And of course, the chicken skins, because it's good for dog coats.
So shiny.
So shiny. And then maybe a little bit of meat, because the chicken is easy on the kidneys. And she would just be like, oh God, yes, the good stuff. Like as if she'd had a doobie, like that just, that's the stuff. So she's like, now rub my belly. Yeah. Like it was the funniest thing. Anyway, I wanted to clarify what I meant by it's not war crimes if it's sales. Because I realized that could definitely not sound great out of context. Although I still hold to that, even if you take me out of context, I still maintain no, I've asked a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists, and international diplomatic policymakers, and they all agreed, no, if it's sales, there's an implication of consent, and therefore it is not a war crime, no matter what weird things you're up to in sales. So what I mean by that is, let me tell you a little story time, y'all. Picture it. It was the late 90s, right before Y2K. And I had a podunk video store in the middle of Nowheresville, Mississippi, in a trailer, a literal trailer. So it came with a back room where adult novelty products and movies were kept. And you needed to show your ID to verify you were old enough to go back there and peruse the selection. Okay. I had really thought about getting rid of it when I opened up the video store. And then I realized, so I had heard about this new thing at the time called multi-vibes. You may be familiar with the names Rabbit and Dolphin. And I was very curious to try these products. But at the time, the cheapest one, the Rabbit, I believe, and the Dolphin were Japanese imports at the time. There wasn't any American manufactured versions. And it was over $100 retail for the simplest one, which was $6 US wholesale. And it occurred to me that not only if I kept the wholesale account, that I could get it wholesale, which heck yeah. However, with shipping, it was $75. However, it would be even better if I could get the sales from the back room to pay for my multivibe. So could I make $75 worth of profit off the back room in a month to pay for my multivibe. This was the goal. So on that theory, I asked my then husband, well, actually, we weren't married yet, but you know what I'm saying. We eventually did marry, since he was in the military, to make a small order of about probably $150 worth of products that we would then sell for a profit in the back room that would then pay for my multivibe. So I could try this out because everybody freaking talking about these multivibe. I don't want to get a rabbit. And so he told me what to order, and I placed the order and it arrived. I was not super thrilled about the blow-up doll. Oh, God, it was so ugly, y'all.
Big Bertha.
Big Bertha. It was so ugly. It was surprisingly cheap, though. Like, Bertha was a vinyl inflatable, like it was a freaking pool toy kind of thing. You know, like I had blown up so many, you know, pool toys over in my lifetime already. At that point, I was 21. And there's Bertha, and she's an inflatable pool toy with this horrible face with a mouth on. It's terrible. It was just genuinely terrible. I did not understand why anyone would buy this, except as a joke. But anyway, long story short, I figured, what was it? I figured 100% markup would be fair. Or no. Back then, 75% markup. I thought a 75% profit was very fair. And that put Bertha at right around $20. Y'all, those first 3 weeks, people went in the back room and they bought nothing. They'd buy a couple movies, and the movies were still priced from the previous store. We literally had bought all their stock that they owned. And they didn't buy any products. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong? And finally, I asked one of the guys who showed up every week, who had been identified to me by the previous store owners as a good regular customer. He was an adult backroom customer. And I asked him, hey, can you tell me like what you're looking for to purchase? Because nobody's buying anything. And he said, well, like, I usually buy maybe something once a month, but I don't buy used stuff, you know, because I don't know. Maybe it's just me. And I'm like, used? Excuse me, what is used back here? And he's like, well, these prices, I assume they were used if they're that cheap. And I'm like, excuse me, what? None of these are used, sir. Well, he's like, well, I just don't know how you could get it that cheap if it's not used. Y'all, I was not selling used blow-up dolls and used vibrators and used lube. That is just what? And I told Tom and my fiance what had been said. And my fiance said, I told you the prices were too low. You need to raise the prices. And I was like, how much? And he's like, a hell of a lot. Raise them through the roof. Raise them more than you think is reasonable, and then raise them again. And when I come back, because he was in the Air Guard, so he was away. He's like, when I come back in a couple days, I'll then lower the prices if I think anything is too high. And I'm like, fine, be like that. And then that night, Tom and I went into the back room. So the video store's still open, and we have the back room door open because nobody was there. Because I had opened it October 31st. So this is, the end of November, early December. And I'm like, can you believe this? My prices are too low. And literally some of the regular men who regularly shop back there came in and were like, hey, can I just come in? I'm like, yeah. I'd seen their ID enough that I know exactly what year they're born. They're fine. And, and none of these men were young. And I was like, yeah, you come back there. We're just working on inventory. And they're like, no problem. I just want to see some movies. So the room is very small. I want you to think about a walk-in closet. And that is pretty much a good description of this back room. Would you not say, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay. So Tom and I are together at one end I'm like, let's see. Tom, did you had the prices on your clipboard, and I
Yeah.
had the price gun because I got to be honest, y'all. The price gun, the old fashioned price guns, super fun. They're just super fun to dial that thing and then like, look, I wanted the toy, so I had the toy because I am the oldest sibling, and he told me the prices to put on them. Okay, so we started with the dildos and the vibrators. And we're slowly going around the room. We're going around 3 walls, pricing things on the wall. And Tom's looking them up and I'm redialing it. So this is taking a little while. Like this, honestly, it took us about 45 minutes, an hour total.
Mhm.
So we had just started when this one guy came in. He looked around at the products that we were not standing right in front of. And then he went over to the one end of the room that didn't have products, just had DVDs and VHS, excuse me. This was before the DVDs, just had the boxes there. And he was, looking through to see what he wanted to rent and or buy. We're pricing them. He was there for a little while because if you haven't noticed, people like to eavesdrop on me and Tom when I am talking about all sorts of things, whether we're at a grocery store or an adult room. Apparently people love to eavesdrop on us. So he took a really long time now that I think about it. Anyway, so we're pricing everything and I get to the blow up dolls and I'm like, I cannot believe that I'm supposed to raise the price by 300% because nobody wants to buy a used blow up doll. I would never sell used. I am just, this is just so frustrating. No, you have to pay me more. Okay, fine, whatever. You get no fair prices. And I priced it $60. That is what I was so mad just about the blow up doll when that man called it a pre-used blow up doll. I was so mad. I priced it $60. So mad. Like, there. And I priced everything else. Y'all, as we are walking out, that guy turns back around, looks at the 2 blow up dolls, puts Bertha in the little black plastic bag that you're supposed to put all the things you want in there and take it up to the front because, again, you don't want children to see what's in there. And he purchased Bertha. He was not interested. When he looked at Bertha at $20, he was not interested in her. But once she was $60, he paid us $65 after tax.
By the way, this was the same night. Like, this was within 10 minutes.
He literally was standing there listening to me bitch.
He picked it up, looked at it, and then put it back. Literally priced it. Picked it up about a minute after it had been repriced.
Underneath it.
And went, oh, that's a good deal.
And then paid for Bertha. He did not ask for a discount since it was like 10 minutes prior, a third of that price. He paid the full $60 plus tax for Bertha. That is what I mean about it's not a war crime if it's sales. You can do experiments on people. You can do experiments on demographics. And in fact, what actually happened in the time it took for my fiance to come home from the military base, in the 3 days it took him to show back up, we sold out of 90% of all the products he had put on the order. 90%. People started coming in upset that we didn't have products. This is after we raised the price anywhere from 250 to 300%.
Oh no, some of those we went even higher because
Tom went back and went no more. Like,
all right, let's see. Let's really test them out. So I went up to 600% of some of the stuff.
And again, this was our very first month open, and we really saw, oh yes, we will experiment on these people because they are not vegan shoppers. They are looking for something psychological. They are not just looking for a good deal.
And we would literally A/B test prices on them. The same product would be in 2 different locations.
In the same room.
But we would have them
in the walk-in closet room, by the way. Like I think it's in the walk-in closet room. So literally you could just go this and then touch the other one, right? That's how far apart they'd be, like what, 6 feet?
Yeah.
We would have 2 different prices. And then see which
price
one
difference
sold first.
Them.
That is what I mean about doing human experiments, and it's not being a war crime. So, like, we did this all the time. We placed different products in different positions and next to other products to see if that would influence their sales. Because, and I was just reading about it. There's, what is it? There's a concept in sales about you need to have at least 3 items and people will pick the middle item. So that is the item that you're making actually the biggest profit off of. And then there's the other concept in sales where you only have one price for an item, but you show it as marked down even though it's not actually marked down. So, it used to be $4 and now it's $3.50.
And then sometimes Walmart gets it wrong and it literally says was $4, now $4.
Right. So there's like all of these concepts in sales. And that's what I mean about experimenting and having fun with this. And that's what I mean about, like, it's not a war crime. Like, it's not a war crime if they're giving you cash. But you can do that, like where you say you target like Facebook ads, where perhaps, and I am literally just off the top of my head saying, maybe you have 2 different listings for the same book. First edition versus the second edition. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud. And you market, you do Facebook targeted ads toward one demographic at this price. And then a month later, you do the same targeted demographic, but at a different price. You raise the price, maybe triple it, and see what happens. Which one do you have more sales at? Which one do you make more money at? Like, that's what I mean about it's your business. You really can play around. You can see which one gains me more sales when I do the pink ad or when I do the lavender ad. You can do these kind of experiments to see what appeals to people. When you do, what is it, that crunchy mom kind of motif, sad beige children in sad beige clothes.
I love those so much.
Fantastic. So that sort of neutral kind of somber motif for your ad campaign, versus if you do more of like a brightly colored like candy store motif. And you can even run them at the same time. You know,
I gotta go flip my chicken tenders. I'll be back.
Okay. But you can run these ad campaigns even honestly at the same time through various platforms, whether we're talking about Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, if you want that, or whatever. I'm just saying, like, you can run these and see based on the links they're using, which one has the more click through or that converts more to sales. You can run all sorts of cool experiments once you have a product to sell. And it is super fun to, like, what will get people to give me money? Or what will get people to do reviews? Like, for instance, you can run, you can run a campaign where, if you write a review anywhere on the planet for my book, good or bad, I don't care. You just have to let me know that you submitted it. I will give you a link to a free bonus story. And then you can try, instead of that, if you run if you post a review, send me the link to it and I will send you a free signed book plate and see which one converts more. Like, which one do people use more to get the thing? You have no idea what is actually truly going to motivate your readers until you experiment on them. Because people will tell you what they want, and then that turns out not to necessarily be what they want.
People do not know what they actually want.
People do not know what they actually want. And it's not just the straights, it's everybody. Because I have to say this even about the gays. People don't know what they want. And it's not like, oh, it's just young people. No, old people don't know what they want. Nope, nobody. If you are human, then you don't necessarily know what you want. Even when you say, oh, I'm absolutely certain this is what I want, but is that the strong enough motivator to get you to click through? Only experimentation will prove it. So that's what I mean about having a good time playing around with your book business. Canva makes it easy to try constructing different ad campaigns, even for free. You don't have to pay for the pro account to do this. You don't have to use Canva for that matter. There are other services. Used to be one with the name Monkey in it. I don't know. I have to look it up. Was it Free Monkey? Anyway, I used to make my lip balm labels out of it.
Megan says Pick Monkey.
It might be Pick Monkey. This is my lip balm labels. So, like, you just don't know till you experiment. And even when people, well, I know what people want because they told me what they want. I am here to tell you. After 10 years and running 2 different businesses, 2 different successful businesses, I am here to tell you that is BS. Yeah, I think it might be Pick Monkey. All right, let's see. What did Jen say? When I still worked, I had a funny friendship with one of the guys I worked with, and we came up with a Secret Santa that was way too inappropriate to go through with. I told him I'd get him a Bertha as a joke since we were so open about stuff at work. It was all very innocent and just silly, but we laughed so much about it. We used to take, okay, so at the sci-fi fantasy conventions, I would dress up one of the blow-up dolls. Like we had a display blow-up doll that we used to keep at the video store. Hey, baby. We used to have a blow-up doll as a display because people would be like, yeah, I don't know. I wonder what they look like. So we blew up one and we used to keep her like sort of, what is it? Tom had her suspended from a corner like Spider-Man about to pounce on people. Remember that?
Yeah.
Because and people are like, why? And I'm like, because everybody asks what she looks like blown up. And the answer is like a pool toy. And because she's nude, we put her in a cheap set of lingerie that my fiance found at a garage sale that would fit her. Like it was like a small or like
yeah, it was like I swear it was like French made, but for Santa.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah. No. There are pictures.
Well, that conjured really, really bad images in my mind.
Yeah, it was like a Santa French made out. It was weird. It was a wild interpretation of several sexual fetishes. Anyway, so we had her enclosed because we're feminists over here. So we dressed her up and he had her suspended from the ceiling in the corner like she was about to pounce on customers, which is hilarious. Because people often wouldn't notice her and then they look up and go, oh, what is that? And Tom had positioned the box against the wall, like up at the top by the ceiling. And it was this is her. This is so you know. And I mean, then we had one for sale. So anyway, we used to take her down when we would go to sci-fi fantasy conventions, but she would still be dressed. And Tom would go around with her as his date to the Saturday night parties. And that is how he would drum up people to come to our party room where we were selling the adult novelty products as well as giving out free drinks. Because people were like, great doll, where'd you get it? And he'd be like, room 17 or whatever. And so again, she was working sales. It's not a war crime if it's sales. So also she was honestly just fun. Then we got a blow up sheep and it had a little sound box in its butt that was removable.
I've got it around here somewhere.
What is wrong with straight people?
So much. So yeah, then we became known as the store that carried a bunch of party inflatables. It was fun. It was because again, these are silly. Have a good time. And we wanted people to have that sort of atmosphere. And so, yeah, when they were going to have a more adult party, but like, you know what I mean? Not like a party with grown-ups, I guess. They would come to get party supplies, essentially.
It's a terrible thing that the adult industry has ruined that word. And you have to
Yes.
find all. It's like YouTube ruining all words, so you have to find workarounds for everything.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, apparently we have unlocked an old memory of Jen's.
OMG, it wasn't birthday I was going to get for him. It was a sheep. Now I remember. Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's always like, I'm going to get the blow up doll till they see the sheep. And when you see the little picture on it that says now with, Bob, motion activated, pressure activated thing, device, you're just like, oh, I'm getting that.
Yeah. Also, one time somebody purchased it for their child because their child was obsessed with sheep. And it was the only inflatable sheep at the time they could find. This was the early 2000s. So it was before really internet sales were much of a thing. And they're like, it's not illegal to buy this for a child, is it? And I'm like, is this like my first inflatable? Like, he's like, no, it's my daughter. She's 5. She just loves sheep. And she really wants a sheep party, like a sheep pool inflatable. And this is the only one we've ever seen. I couldn't find any others. Will it hold up in water? And I'm like, if you inflate it, it should, because if it lets out air, it wouldn't work as an inflatable, right? I mean, I said, the only thing is remove the ball box, because I don't know that that's water safe. And it had a little door back there where you were, so you could remove the sound box. It had a little Velcro door.
Jen, maybe if you come to the after on Discord, I will explain the history of the party circuit sheep. Because
yes, Tom
I have
actually
the actual story.
There are so many dark stories about the various party circuits.
If you've ever wanted to know the origins of Sheep Boy, Tom can tell you the story. There is a story.
Actually showed up at that showed up at a pirate party once. Oh no!
Yes.
I don't know if I want to know the backstory to this, because I know
there's an actual real story of what happened, how it spread, what was.
Tom is the originator of the Sheep Boy character.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Oh yeah. Sheep Boy made his first appearance at Crescent City Con.
Oh my.
A long time ago, yes, and it was at a pirate party actually.
But that can wait till afterwards with the Discord.
Jen, the Discord invite link is in my link tree down below. If you click on my link tree link, at the bottom of Linktree, there is the Discord invite link. Make sure it works. It should work, but let me know. Why a blow-up sheep?
Again, there are answers for this.
Yes, come to the Discord at the Unicorn Council Discord after the show. Oh, did you hear that thunder?
Oh, yeah.
And we will be happy to tell you the rest of the story. There is plenty
it's a
of
crazy
the rest
story.
Of the story.
I feel like it's important to point out there is no shame at the Unicorn Council Discord.
No,
just like there's no shame in my Discord. And I'm not saying like you were ordered not to be ashamed. It's like it's a lot of shameless people sitting around talking and other people blushing a lot.
It's true.
So
swapping stories. But yes, if you would like to hear the rest of the Sheep Boy story, Tom will tell it after the show. So, Charlie.
Yes.
The business that is the book.
The business that is the book. Trust no one. First rule of being a writer, trust no one. Everyone's trying to steal your work. And by that, I don't mean that they're wanting to necessarily actually steal your copyright. They're just trying to make money off of you and forget to pay you. So always remember that. Read, if you're going for TradPub, I just want to say your business is finding a very good lawyer That is the heart of your business. It is more important that you pay an attorney than an editor or anyone else, because there will be loopholes in your contract that you do not know are there if you can't read the legalese to tease them out.
I agree.
So make sure before you sign a publishing contract with someone, especially if it's something that you care about, to have an attorney look at it, because I remember the first big fight I had with a magazine was that they owned all of the intellectual property in it in perpetuity. It was just a little throwaway line, like hidden down around paragraph 180 something in the giant contract, which if you went down a couple more paragraphs in the contract, clearly spelled out that by that, if I wrote a character with the same name in something following, I could be considered in breach of contract. So read your contracts very carefully and know what you're selling.
And do not use their lawyer.
Yes.
No.
Never.
That is called a conflict of interest. That is a problem Hollywood's having.
Mm-hmm. If your agent's company is also a production company, your agent has a conflict of interest and is not necessarily helping you find the best deal for you.
Nope.
As talent. Yeah. I do want to point out, by the way, before we end for the day, for the week, we really try hard not to have actual clickbaity titles. We try to play around with the YouTube titles, but even when they sound clickbaity, we do try to actually bring it home, and I do want to point out, many of y'all do not know, my toddler nickname when I was a kid was, in fact, ReeRee. My cousin, who was born 28 days older than me, Roo, so I was ReeRee. As in, his name was Rudolph, so he was Roo, and my name's Glory, as in Glory, so it's ReeRee. Hence, yes, my very first nickname I ever had was ReeRee. My father hated it, and that's why nobody calls me that now. But yeah, it was like that, and that is how my grandmother used to spell it, is ReeRee. That's what the title is. So I meant to bring it up earlier, and I just was like, we really do try to make it sound clickbaity, but not actually clickbaity. And so, yes.
Yeah, we hope we've gotten people to understand that it's business, in which case the best way to succeed at business is have fun with it. Yes. Do not put pressure on yourself, and this is your hobby till it's actually paying bills, in which case you are investing your hobby money, not your life money.
And occasionally hire a tax professional. Keep all of your receipts. This is a business, and depending on where you are in the world or even in the country, because this does vary state by state, what you can deduct off of your state taxes. But there are a lot of the resources that you are getting for your home office, because if you have, depending on where you are, having a desk can count as that you work at from, can count as a home office. I literally have a room of the house that we have dedicated to my home office, and can actually use some of the things that go into that room as a tax write-off. Keep all of your receipts, and if in doubt, find a tax professional to help show you what is and is not deductible and what you need to keep track of in future, because this is an industry that works off of pennies. It really is. And understanding that you're looking for as many revenue sources that can bring those pennies into you, and as many ways as you can to keep from giving those pennies back out. Mm-hmm. And that does include on your taxes. Don't just let the big boys get their tax breaks.
Jen says, I pay a lot for taxes every year, but she's worth every penny. Very nice.
But always keep your receipts, because when in doubt, it's better to bring more receipts than your accountant requires, that they can then say, oh, this isn't deductible, this isn't, and then you know for future reference. But it's better to have kept those receipts to bring in than have them ask you questions like, so didn't I hear you say you got a new laptop for your writing business this year? Where's the receipt for that? and you realizing that you don't have a receipt that the government will accept for that laptop. So it is it is all about those pennies and keeping an eye on them. Be very careful with how you're wanting to spend your money and how you're wanting to build your brand, but be very careful about how you actually pay for things.
Because writers like doing journals, having a receipt journal where
Yep.
you can actually look at everything even better. You
Yes.
staple them in the journal.
Yep.
As a bookkeeper, I'm going to say this. If like you have ADHD like I do, and you struggle to keep track of your receipts, I have found one method that seems to work for most ADHD brains as far as like a minimum necessary to call it done. Here it is. Buckle up, Buttercup. Okay. A gallon zip top bag, and then you've written on the bag the month and year, and you only put receipts in from that month or year as the month is going. And then you zip her up, and you can honestly put her in a file folder, and at the end of the year organize it, or maybe once a month you organize it. But look, it is better to at least corral the receipts for 1 month together than to have them all over the place or to not be sure. Every day, at the end of your day, empty your pockets in your wallet or whatever. If you have receipts, put it in that zip top bag that's labeled with your current month and year. Zip top it up. I mean, like, because I'll drop things, so I don't leave her unzipped anytime unless I'm literally putting a receipt in or taking a receipt out. But that is a stopgap to deal with ADHD while trying to stay semi-organized. And so essentially you're making it easier for future you and future accountant or bookkeeper to at least find the receipts. Also, quite honestly, into this day and age, it is just easier if you have a cheap little printer. You can print out your online receipts.
Yes.
And then again, put it in the zip top bag. So I'm talking about like Amazon or whatever you order online for your business. You know, like, look, when you pay, if you are paying for a cover designer, after you've paid them, usually there's an invoice or some sort of payment, paper trail, but it's online, right? Because most of the time, you're not writing a check because you're not, 75 years old. So, yeah. I love writing checks. I can't believe I worked so hard to learn this skill and now no checks. Anyway, but that's the world we live in. Nevertheless, I would actually highly recommend, because the government does not want to let me just log into my account and then I could show you the laptop. The government is not interested in this.
And
they want a printout, damn it.
And I highly recommend that you do work with a tax professional on this, because the one thing to remember is if you are running a small business, you are the one that will get audited. The way that they have set up their system is that if you are an individual, a sole proprietor, or a small business, you are far more likely to get audited than an Amazon or a larger corporation, because they have the tax attorneys that can fight it and keep it in court longer, and that costs them money. Remember, the IRS is a for-profit company run out of Delaware. Yep. They are not a part of the government. They are all about saving themselves pennies as well. So you are more likely, especially if you live in the United States, to get audited if you are wrong on your taxes. And that can be a nightmare.
At one point, at least, I think it's still true. At one point, I lived in the state with the most audited county in the entire country. And what a coinkydink, it's also the poorest county in the country.
And what were they auditing for?
Who had air conditioners in their trailers and who didn't. Literally, IRS agents were walking around trailer parks and noting any address that had an air conditioner in a window.
And it was whether that person actually deserved or didn't deserve the earned income credit.
Right. Yep. That's who they were auditing. And those people can't afford a lawyer to fight it. And they knew that. So they knew that they could take away their earned income credit.
And the other really important thing to do soul searching on is whether or not you need to file as a corporation, whether you need to incorporate your business as a business, because there are good pro and con arguments on all the fronts. If there's anything that you think you can get sued for, you want to at least be an LLC, if not an S corp, to protect yourself from liability for the work that you're putting out there. Having that buffer there can be important, but this is going to vary a lot based on the jurisdiction that you live in and the protections that are afforded to you, because I do know that we have international listeners, and I don't know how that is affected if you're in the UK or something like that. So your mileage may vary on that, but at least having an LLC, which is one of the easiest things in the world to file.
And honestly, one of the least expensive as far as business filings to do, like, which is not to say that it's cheap, because I know like in California, it's several $100s to establish an LLC versus here in the state of Mississippi, it is 50 whole doll hairs.
There are no LLCs in Canada. It's straight to corporations.
And what do you know about like corporation filing? Like, what are the costs?
I don't know. I think you needed at least 2 people to do it.
A lot. Sometimes making sure. This is why I said your mileage really will vary, but it's more the 2 things that you're looking for with that are whether or not you can file for tax breaks, because there are some tax breaks that you have to be a business to get, and some that you can get as a sole proprietor, just running it off of your own tax ID, whatever that is, wherever you are. And just kind of weighing the pros and cons on that, because there are additional fiduciary concerns that get put into place once you have incorporated as a company. It is possible to accidentally embezzle from yourself, even if you're the only person in the company. Yes. There are ways that you can accidentally do an illegal that doesn't feel like it should be an illegal. So definitely talk to an attorney about this. Talk to somebody who can explain to you the local, where you are, rules on how all of that has to be set up so that you don't get yourself in trouble. But if you are working on anything that is too close to anything that the mouse is doing, I would say anything that looks anything like Warner Brothers could sue you. Like if you have a character that's just dark, brooding, and a detective, I would probably have an LLC, because Warner Discovery needs money, and I can see them trying to sue anybody to go, hey, that's a knockoff Batman. They have already sued 3 people that I know of in the last year for doing knockoff Batmans, that their characters are not knockoff Batmans, but they'll probably win in court because they can afford giant legal teams, and court is more about argumentation than actually being right. So,
by the way, if you are looking for I know this is a weird segue, but we're the awkward siblings, so everything's weird. I'm about to tell you about a show, and I just already ahead of time want to start with skip the first episode. Okay, just please, just promise me you won't watch the first episode, and then we don't have to have any discussions. But the rest of it, if you are watching this show, especially this episode, you will probably enjoy this show. And it's called, Glory knows it, All You Need Is a Sister. Specifically,
do not watch the first episode. It is Japanese messed up.
Okay, just ignore.
Especially just understand y'all. Like, this is the same people with the whole tentacle and fishwives that.
It's a bait and switch. Don't just the first episode.
It's a bait and switch. So the first episode is wildly inappropriate and gross, and then the entire rest of the one season is about the book business. It actually is about a whole group of writers and a few editors, and and not just in Japan. It's actually very applicable to American book industry, both indie. There are actually a lot of discussions of indie publishing versus traditional publishing. It's a really great anime. Skip the first episode, please.
So, I posted a link to, this is Crunchyroll. There's a lot of people who have Crunchyroll, but even if not, it'll still tell you the episode, because it's episode 4 in particular. I think people here will enjoy, because it is when he meets the tax,
accountant.
A tax accountant. And you hear, and actually they go over several things that are actually tax deductible for writers, both in Japan as well as the US, but it is how you, what do you call it?
How you phrase it, how you
how you notate it on your taxes.
yes, like
whether this is something you can take off. And, it's an interesting discussion. But yes, I'm like, please just, if you have to watch the first, just skip the first half, okay? It's a bait and switch.
that first episode is wildly gross. Just gonna
But the
say
rest of it is a series for writers, about writers, and everything we go through.
Yeah. So yeah, like the entire rest of the season, I really feel like if you're a writer, you have so much to gain from an anime talking about this industry and what writers can do to turn a profit, to be more profitable, to just, pay their bills. But also, like, they don't just talk about taxes for writers. They're also talking about outlining and editing and collaborating. Huh?
And contracts with other businesses.
Yes, it's like, it is truly writer culture. And they do talk about the difference between hobby writers versus people who wish to support themselves with their writing. And I actually found all of the conversations to be very constructive and useful conversations. It's just the first half of the first episode is so messed up. And that's why I've always hesitated to recommend this otherwise wonderful anime is ew. Just ew. Like, again, I'm not poo-pooing if you're like, but I like that adult kind of thing.
And for the rest of the series, all the other characters will comment about what happens in the first 15 minutes, essentially going, dude, you are messed up. What is wrong with you? Why are you trying to do this? And he's like, I don't know what I was thinking. I just wanted to get a reaction out of people.
He's like, I was just writing to get a reaction, and now I'm kind of pigeonholed into this genre. Again, real writer issues. Real writer concerns.
That's what pen names are for.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, we really do recommend this series other than the first episode. But like, it gave me and Tom so much to talk about the writer work. And it also was kind of a relief for me to see that even on the other side of the planet in Japan, writers are having the same kind of conversations that I was having with Tom and other writers about working in this industry. That essentially writer concerns are kind of universal because we all live in the same century right now.
So. And becoming even more so. And just for... more importantly than anything else, and I don't know if you've touched on this at all because I was pulled away into committee land, but don't necessarily be wedded to the novel. If you are, you need to ask yourself for your business, are you a writer or are you a novelist? Mm. And how important is it to you to be a novelist? Because given the way that storytelling has changed since the advent of the internet, there are a lot of ways that you can make money and run a business off of your work that are not putting out a physical book or even a digital book. And you can see this through the wonderful podcasts that are out there, that they just tell a story every week, every month, and go out and raise money off of Patreon and ads. There are people that write directly to Patreon. There are writers who are making money just doing stuff on World Anvil and other places like that. I know of one writer that I am astounded by who has one of the crappiest looking PM wikis I have ever seen in my life. Like, the closest thing to a classy font on this entire site is Courier New. And it looks like you've stumbled onto somebody who just scanned all of their typed work onto the internet and just was like, it's fine, nobody will care. And apparently that's true, because they're making somewhere around $5,000 a month from their Patreon of people paying them to continue putting out these weird anthropology stories about weird creatures from this alien world that they've created. So you don't have to worry about the aesthetic. You don't have to worry about these other things that may be holding you back from moving into these other fields. If you're wanting to make a business as a writer, start asking yourself where the best place for your writing is. Where are you going to monetize that?
Do you want to see what Tom brought?
Yes, I very much want to see what Tom brought. Brian, you got to get in here.
Look at it. It's the size of my head.
It's so exciting. Even the dog went crazy.
It's hot.
I don't know.
Smoked turkey thigh.
Oh,
Smoked turkey quarters.
Nice.
That's so good. My brain is making me.
Garlic fingers.
It looks so good. My brain interpreted your garlic fingers as, "Oh, I can smell the turkey."
Yeah, it's smoked. It's so crispy, delicious. Hold up. What is this one?
What's that? Beef shoulder.
You're what? He's making kimchi.
Mm. Here's the beef shoulder. The smoked beef shoulder, which is also quite hot. And it is also a fair amount of my head.
That just looks delicious.
It smells like heaven, like smoked heaven. Okay.
I told you if you wanted to get a smoker for Christmas, like, Merry Christmas to me too.
Well, I mean, like, Tom can give you all recipes and everything, so you don't have to go through the initial experimentation phase that we did if you don't want to.
He keeps going back and forth on it, and we have there's a store in town that have fairly decent smokers that they put on crazy sale at about this time of year every year.
Oh, nice.
Because they get them in for the summer, and what they have left they try to sell off.
Yeah, they're trying to sell their stock off. I mean, I have to tell you, I really thought smoking meat well would be a lot harder than it turned out to be. I really feel like it says a lot about I live in South Mississippi. There are barbecue joints everywhere. And I used to think they were really good. And now that I've had the smoked meats we smoke, I'm like, what is their excuse? Why are they putting out crap? People don't know that they could have better. That's the problem. Like, that's how good this is, and anyone can do it. If you get a smoker, we will share our recipes. We'll start sharing our brining recipes and ratios on our Discord server.
And we promise this is real simple, ADHD friendly.
Yeah, it's ADHD friendly, y'all, because it's ADHD / chronic illness because we also don't have a lot of energy. Like, let's be honest, like.
Which is why the only caveat I have really about smokers is get electric or propane. Do not get charcoal, just because it takes too much thinking if you are ADHD and tending.
Like, we still use chips. We still use wood chips. But the propane is so much easier to handle.
Roy wants to go outside.
No.
Yeah, I love he's just gotten up on the couch to stare you down.
Mother. It is time.
So I think I need to go so I can take him out.
Okay. We'll see you in the
I'll see
Discord.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Is there anything left to say about book business? With that, I want to say next week, the episode is going to be about marketing and promotion of your book business and your books. So we're actually going to go into that in more detail because that really does need like more attention.
So the last thing that I would add to this is always check your bank statement. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten the notice of, we paid you through that direct deposit link that we had you set up, and then the money doesn't show up. Because remember, legally, and this is the fun thing about being in this business, after you sell a book through any of these companies, they have 90 days to tell you about it and a further 90 days to actually get the money to you. And many of them will try to hold out as long as they can on actually having that money get into your accounts. Make sure that you have something that you're doing for bookkeeping so that you know that when they say that they sent you the money, they actually did. This is one of the reasons I prefer the direct deposit, because I don't have to sit back and go, where did I put my receipts? Where did I get that check or not? I can load the account and see whether or not it actually went in there, because this has been a big problem over my career of people promising, oh, here's the money, and then like, but it didn't show up. Oh, that's so crazy. I sent the wire.
Oh, and by the way, the space jockey who puts out Y-Writer software also has a free software to help you keep track of your KDP and other book sales. So again, you do not have to pay for software if you do not want to help you keep track of this. None of this of the book business needs to be an insurmountable mountain by which you are expected to climb independently with no support. I mean, if you're watching this, that is why you are here anyway, is you are looking for more support. You are looking for shared knowledge. So I'm here to tell you why the guy who puts out Y-Writer also puts out a software to help you keep track of your sales and other parts of the business side of putting out books. But you can just do that with a spreadsheet, quite honestly. But essentially, the Y-Writer software for sales, you can actually download the CSV from KDP and other sources, and then it'll just input it automatically.
Here's a link.
It's very nice.
And always remember, take advice. Well, to just be better than she is, but like, just look at the example of one of the greatest icons that we have as writers today, and that is E.L. James. You don't have to have good book covers. You don't have to have good writing. You don't have to have good plots. You don't even have to know what you're talking about in all of the details.
You don't have to know what grammar is in the language you were born in.
You don't have to know how actual humans react to trauma or joy or pleasure or pain or really anything. Like, all of the things that we worry about so much in trying to get right, trying to get perfect. Like, just remember, she had three or four books in that series that were huge sellers, that people are obsessed with, that people still talk about. I still hear people talk about those books with like joy and glee in their eyes, that were also turned into movies. She didn't worry about being a pleasant person. She didn't worry about having a good public image. She didn't worry about any of the things that so many of us use as excuses to hold us back. And while I'm not saying be like her and be like so rude to everyone that the director of your film franchise quits and you have to cobble something together to go on. No, be better, but don't let any of the lack of what you perceive as lack of your own talent, lack of your own polish, lack of your own professionalism hold you back. There are countless examples in this industry of works that I don't know how did they let Yippee stay in that book? How did they let Yippee stay in that book? Like, I don't even understand how that stayed in A Phantom Menace, and that's a kids movie. Like, just how do you keep the word Yippee in your book with a straight face? I don't understand, especially in the context that she uses it. But you don't have to worry.
50 Shades to this day is still the most checked out and the most stolen book at the public library system I used to work at. It was the most checked out title and the most stolen title. However, interestingly, most of the readers returned the book later. Like, they would just reshelve it. They just didn't check it out. They did not want their name attached to it.
So don't think that, well, I can't afford the editor. I can't afford the cover designer. I can't afford, I mean, when I say that it's a bad book cover, those are some of the most generic book covers I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Like you could put any title on that. That could be a business book, that could be a spy thriller, that could be a romance novel, that could be pretty much anything but a comedy.
I remember the first time I heard the title, I'm like, what does that even mean? And they're like, it's a spectrum of what?
We tend to have this view of what the business is that we perpetuate, especially in AuthorTube, that you have to be a novelist, that you have to be committed to the words, that you have to have the editor, you have to have the perfect cover, you have to have all of this perfection. And that's a social media bias that is creeping into this industry, because if you're going to be talking about your books and saying, hey, look at me, I'm going to give you advice, look at how great I am. Well, you kind of need to be as good as you can. Ask a couple AuthorTubers that will remain unnamed that have problems with that. And that
AuthorTubers who entirely hide.
They kind of disappeared. They used to be really prominent and really big.
Oh, no, I was saying the AuthorTubers that hide their books they put out.
Oh, yeah.
And they put it under pen name, and you cannot find what they actually are.
Because they know they're really not holding up to the things the person says. Jen, I agree. Jen says, I feel like she might have opened up the romance genre a bit for better authors a bit. I agree.
Yeah.
I can honestly tell you, as a public librarian, she brought in so many people to the library who opened up accounts just to check out the book. And then once they read the book series, we're like, well, what else you got? And, you know, like she did, she very much reignited a passion for reading I feel like this is not over the top to say for millions of readers around the planet. She opened up or renewed a passion for reading in them. And, you know, I thought that 50 Shades, the series, was a pipeline to erotica and maybe romance. Y'all, no, the pipeline is to all the genres. People went from 50 Shades to cozy mysteries. People went from 50 Shades, and we had a lot of male readers. They went from 50 Shades to, what is that? I can't remember that guy. He's written like dozens of books, but it's all like warship battle, alternate history things.
Turtle Dove?
Yeah, Turtle Dove.
Very
and the other one, the younger one, who's kind of inherited. Remember he wrote Leviathan or something? Or there was something about a Leviathan in one of them.
Leviathan.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. But, you know, essentially these military style, alternate fiction, speculative fiction type, she really just brought a lot of people back to reading who had become disaffected. So again, even though her writing was definitely not for me, I in no way want to poo-poo her, because number one, she pretty much saved that one publishing company that published her.
Yeah.
And two, she really brought back so many disaffected readers all over the planet. And that's a good thing, because they then went, well, while I'm here, what else you got? They'd go, even when they bought the book, and they're like, well, and then they go back to the bookstore because, well, that was fun. I want more to read. And that means they're then open to like writers like us, where they're looking for stuff to read because they had such a good time with her. Or maybe they didn't have a good time, but it reminded them of their love of reading.
But the one thing that she did do really, really well is she understood the business. She got her money. She got her money from the book. She got her money from the movies. She understood her trademark. She understood all of that. And that's really, if you are wanting to make money off of this, you know, like I said, you know, I don't look at her as like an icon of like, I want to be E.L. James someday, right. But she is a great inspiration of maybe my prose isn't the best it could be. Maybe my covers aren't the best, but if you hit that readership just right, that's what you're actually aiming for. Our eye always has to be on the reader, not the words. We are so focused on the words that we actually are missing the point of our business.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's wonderful to get the words right. Yes, it's wonderful to write that thing that just is worded so beautifully that a little tear wells up in your eye, just in awe of its perfection. But the business itself is making another person happy for reading what you wrote. And that's what she did really well.
Mm-hmm.
For better or worse, whether you agree, whether you're one of those people or not. And that's where you need to keep the eye on the prize. That's why they did not make her change her voice for the other books in that series, because it spoke to the readership. It spoke to the people that were into what she was writing. That's what you're looking for. If you want to build this business, be idiosyncratic. Be you. Don't pretend to be somebody else, but know your rights. Know how you're going to monetize this if that is a goal for you. And if it is not, then don't worry about it. Have fun. Have 100% of the fun. I don't want anyone to think that my focus on having people see this as a business means that if you don't see it as a business, you are not a real writer or you are inferior in some way.
Oh, no.
I'm just concerned when I see so many of my friends and colleagues, when I watch an AuthorTube video and somebody I don't know personally, and they're talking about how many hundreds of dollars they spent on this and how many hundreds of dollars they spent on that. And I'm having this panic attack going, do you know how many thousands of copies you're going to have to sell to make your money back? I'm having many panic attacks about this. If you have the disposable income and you just want to spend the money and you don't care if you see it back, more power to you. Have all the fun with it in the world. But if you need to make that money back, don't spend it if you don't have it. Because this is a hard industry to make those pennies in. And you need to be thinking about this as pennies.
Mm-hmm.
When I say that in my prior life, before my unscheduled mental health vacation, I was selling thousands of books. I am not rich. I'd made some money from that. It got some checks. It paid for some things, but it was not like we're in the money, right? Those thousands of books did not make a secure living. You really need to be selling tens of thousands of books to get into the secure living, if not even more than that. So, depending on what your royalty rates are per book.
$3 a book, 10,000, that's $30,000.
Yeah,
That's a year.
And you really need to be very mindful of what this industry is and what you're getting into, and just don't sabotage yourself up front.
Mm-hmm. And that's the part why I'm advocating that really look at how to spend the minimal amount to accomplish the goal so that you can keep doing it rather than going, well, that was fun, but I can't afford a second one. Like, that's what I mean by it's better to keep doing it and build up momentum over years than to do one big splash and, well, that's the end of that, moving on. And just like, because again, writers can't not write. We're storytellers. It's in our blood. We can't not. It has called to us. We did not choose the writer life, because I would not choose this for anybody. To be haunted by characters of your own imagination, it gets crowded in the bathtub, y'all. Maybe it's just me, but like sometimes I get tired of that. I just want to break from some of these characters, and they're like, "No, I need to tell you about my day," and I'm like, I really just wanted to listen to music.
And the last piece of advice that I have for you is we have what we call the timeout rule. Anytime we're talking about a business-related subject and we say, I have to, I ought to, I should, I must, immediate pause, like that stops discussion. We then have to write out the sentence and ask ourselves, do we really? Because it is so easy to get involved in groupthink. It is so easy to see, well, this is the way other people are doing it, so we have to do it that way. It's so easy to get yourself bogged down into this delusional state where you are spending money or working towards a goal that actually isn't good for your business. So anytime you start using phrases like must, have to, should, ought to, you need to put the pause on. Yes, there's some things where you have to say that. I have to pay my taxes. I have to have product to sell. Those things are true, but you have to be very careful, or those have tos will start adding up, because you'll start hearing advice and hearing, oh, that sounds like a nifty idea. And eventually, if you're not careful because of who we are as human beings, you will turn that into I have to do this.
That's why I advocate trying to have fun. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. So have to is kind of a fun sucker.
Yep.
Kind of sucks all the fun out of the room. Well, we have to do this versus we want to do this because.
I mean, I have to admit, like, one of my favorite things to ever say to, older post high school people, young adults, and up to early 20s. I love saying this because I want to see their expression on their face. It's a beautiful expression every time. And it's, for YouTube, I will change this slightly. Remember, if you're not giggling when you're having adult fun times with someone, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
And they all give you that look of, what are you talking about? Like, there is no awards given for adult fun time. It's a hobby. It's something you're supposed to have fun. So if you're not laughing, you're probably not having fun. And so should the other person. And they just have this horror-stricken look on their face of, no, that's not possible. You can't do that. And it's like, yes, all the successful people do.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents giggle if they have a successful marriage.
Yes.
When they're in the room and you hear them giggling, that's probably what they're up to.
They're not telling jokes.
Yeah. And the look on their faces is just like, oh, yeah, this is worth it.
But I mean, honestly, it should feel like that with your book business. It should feel like, ooh, let me play and see what people respond to. It should be fun. It should satisfy your curiosity about what will work and what doesn't work. Let me go do bad things and see if that's a failure. And this is true, sometimes this is success. And this is true. This was true at the video store. This was true at the home party business. This was true at the library. This was true when I was teaching. I was surprised. Okay. I was really surprised when I was teaching. I was having one week where, oh God, the kids were on their worst behavior. I swear every one of them woke up every single morning and chose violence. And I was the one they were choosing. And I don't know. I mean, like, it wasn't personal. Like, they weren't like, we hate you, Miss Fink. It was just more like, screw what you want, old lady. Like, it was that kind of vibe. And I'm talking about my third graders here when I was teaching third grade. So Tuesday afternoon, I got fed up with them. Oh God, they were just pushing every button I had. I was a bit sleep deprived too, in my defense. In their defense, I was a bit sleep deprived. So I said to them, if you will, all 15 of you will behave for the rest of the week, we will have a popcorn party Friday afternoon. But all 15 of you have to not get your name on the detention or naughty board. There could be no names by the end of the week. So sometimes they would get on the naughty board if they had slapped at a fellow student or stolen something from a fellow student or whatever, or yelled at one. But they could also get themselves off the naughty board, like go apologize and have your apology accepted. So it better be a good apology. Then you could have your name taken off the naughty board. Okay. And it was about did naughty things, not they're a naughty person. And they said to me, this is Tuesday afternoon of this particular week. They said, do you really mean that, Miss Fink? Would you actually make popcorn? And I was like, I promise on my honor as both a Girl Scout and a fully licensed teacher, we will have a popcorn party if there are no names on the timeout board Friday afternoon. And then another one, one of my smart little sassy ones said, will it be enough popcorn though? I don't want 3 kernels. And I said, there will be unlimited popcorn. I will make sure that I bring little snack baggies and that not only do you have all the popcorn you want to eat Friday afternoon here in class, but I will give each one of you a take-home bag of popcorn. Would that be fair? And they said, okay. Because I knew I could hold this up, because what they didn't realize is I wasn't going to use microwave popcorn. I had an actual old-fashioned air popcorn maker. And the teacher next door to me had a microwave, and I knew I could melt butter in there. And then that was what I was going to do. And y'all, these kids went from hell to everybody had better be quiet, Miss Fink is speaking. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. We want a popcorn party. And word got out. By Wednesday morning, I had other teachers going, how are you going to do a popcorn party? How can you afford it? Do you know the price of microwave popcorn? Also, you don't have a microwave. And I said, I talked to the teacher next door. I was just going to bring a pound of butter to melt stick by stick and put it on the popcorn, because like I had a huge bowl. And I had a pound of unpopped popcorn kernels. Just that's all I was going to do. And the teacher said, the next door teacher said, if I bring butter, could you make popcorn for my kids too? And I was like, oh yeah, no problem. That would be great, because the butter's the expensive part. Because we're not going to pop a pound of popcorn. My God. And so then word got out by Wednesday morning. The two third grade classes are going to have a popcorn party this Friday if everyone behaves. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And the principal's like, are you really having a popcorn party? And I said, yeah, it's air popcorn and butter, y'all. It's not rocket science. And they're like, oh, no, seems expensive. I'm like, it's $1 for a pound of popcorn and $2 for a pound of butter. I feel like I can afford this if they will just behave this week, because I want to throw all of them out of the room. They're driving me nuts. And I said, so it's worth $3 to me. It's honestly worth $3 whole to me. And the principal's like, that's a good idea. That's a real good idea. And then, and I said, yeah, I'm thinking of actually also spending a whole 10 cents on some sugar and a packet of Flavor Right lemonade. And I'm going to make them a gallon of lemonade. So it's a popcorn and lemonade party. And she's like, oh, you're the smart one. This is how I got hired at that job. You're the smart one. And I was like, oh, yeah. And that's a party. And I told the teacher next door, she's like, oh, make me a gallon too. I'll give you 50 whole cents. And I'm like, done. So yeah, that was our popcorn and lemonade party. Word got out. By the way, this was a really nice school. This was a supportive school. So Friday afternoon, after lunch, I hear this slushing ice sound and an old woman sound of, coming up the stairs. I'm like, what is going on? It was one of the lunch ladies. She had heard I was throwing a popcorn and lemonade party for the babies, as she called them, the babies. And she brought up, and I'm not exaggerating, a 5-gallon bucket of ice so the babies can have cold lemonade.
Nice.
Aww. We did not need 5 whole gallons for 15 kids, plus the next class over that had 22 kids. So we had ice to go around. It was such a huge hit. The kids are like, Miss Fink, when she said we're going to have a popcorn party, she is not kidding. We're going to have a popcorn party. Y'all, for like, the equivalent, like we used less than a quarter of the popcorn. So we used about a quarter's worth of the cost of popcorn and about maybe 50 cents worth of lemonade. And, it was honestly only used half of the pound of butter. So $1 worth of butter. For the less than $2-3, we had a popcorn party. All the kids behaved for the rest of the week, and they made sure all the other kids, also behaved. So they helped each other be good, and they felt special. It felt like it was a little party. Like I played a little music for them. I had like the Kids Bop thing on, and we played music. And it was wild when the Black Eyed Peas came. I'm like, that was a wild one. Kids Bop, Black Eyed Peas. Okay. Yeah, they did Lady Bumps. Okay. But just see 8 and 9-year-olds dancing. But we had a little party and they absolutely loved it. And from then on, it was Miss Fink. What do you think we need to do to have another party? And I'm like, it was $250 to throw an entire party for some kids. The principal made a decision the next week that she went out and bought the exact same model as my air popper. And she made an announcement that any class that behaves can get a free popcorn party at the end of each week. So if their teacher nominates them for a popcorn party, they can have a popcorn party. And it started being popcorn and lemonade parties every Friday. And the principal said, if we ever have where every single class qualifies for a popcorn and lemonade party in the same Friday or the same week, Domino's will upgrade us to a pizza party. Y'all, it turned around the entire school behavior for all the kids because they just wanted to have a good time and eat some snacks, and they loved it. They're like, it's worth being extra good the whole rest of the week to have our little parties. Teachers started changing their lesson plans to accommodate to have popcorn and lemonade parties every Friday for some of the classes. Let's see, Kids Bop apparently had their own series channel. I stumbled across it when we ran out of data early one month and I couldn't stream Spotify. Oh, that's cool. But like, this is my point about you would be surprised what actually works on people, but you don't know till you try out a whole bunch of stuff. You know, you try out a bunch of ideas. I honestly thought the kids would call me cheat for wanting to do a little popcorn thing Friday afternoon, but I was, you know, poor. I was a first year teacher and I couldn't afford to like really give them anything special. And they were as good as angels. They were wonderful. They were actually really sweet to me too.
But
Like,
also by doing the party, you are recognizing their behavior.
oh yeah.
Because usually there's no recognition for them being well behaved.
Truly. And I mean, like, I was already giving everyone, like, if your name was not on the timeout board Friday afternoon, you qualified to get one thing out of my prize basket. And if you had not had your name for all 5 days in a row, you could pull out of this special prize basket of like bigger prizes. So it wasn't that they already weren't getting rewards, but this was like they wanted to socialize. And also, I gather they just didn't get popcorn at home a lot, was what they said. Because I'm like, I offered them other kinds of parties. Because like someone else had told me, oh, you should do root beer float parties. They're really cheap. So when you've got a little more cash, you get a gallon of the big ice cream in a bucket. And you get two liters of the Walmart root beer. And you can do root beer float parties and like in the little cups, the little 5-ounce cups, and the kids love it. That's what I was told with like straws. The kids love it. You should try that sometime. We did it once, and then I started offering like, it's your choice. You want to do popcorn or root beer floats? Miss Fink just got a text return, so we can do those. And they're like, we just want a popcorn party. We just like popcorn and lemonade parties. And I was like, that's what you like. So like, we would dance. We would have popcorn and lemonade, and they would all pick out their stuff out of the prize baskets because then they were all qualifying for the prize baskets at that point. And like, that is what they love. So again, I was surprised that my cheapest party idea was their favorite party idea. Also because they liked having the take-home bags of popcorn. Like, this was also part of it, was like they had snack for later. So then I started giving them bigger bags of popcorn. I'm like, well, fine, if you want to snack all weekend, there you go. Because they're like, it has the real butter. Miss Fink is classy. I heard a kid say that one time. It was the cutest thing. But anyway, my point just being, like, I was genuinely surprised. Like, no, the pizza party was not actually the strong motivator for them. And I asked, why don't you want pizza? Why do you prefer popcorn? And they said, pizza is very filling, and I can't take it home and keep it like in my room overnight, but popcorn will keep it. It won't be stale. But you have to keep pizza in the refrigerator, and then my little brother eats it. That is what I was told why they don't like pizza parties over popcorn parties. And root beer float parties, you can't take that home at all because it melts. And again, so they liked popcorn and lemonade parties. That was their favorite one. It did not occur to me the concerns of my students and their lifestyles over my lifestyle. And while feedback would have been nice, it didn't occur to them to talk to me about what they want in a party. Because when I asked, what do you want in a party? They're like, we want a pizza party. And I'm like, I definitely cannot afford a pizza party. Because that was all they'd ever known before that. So what I'm trying to point out is definitely experiment. Because you might be surprised what sticks to the wall. And the only way you're going to figure it out is to try it. And that is my final thought.
Glory has repeatedly over the years said that should maintain for adults as well.
I'm very disappointed you don't get a prize after you go to the dentist. Like they should. Why can't I? I, as an adult, would like a sticker. I, as an adult, would like to pick out of the prize basket at the dentist office. Why is it only kids get to pick out? That's not fair. I was a good patient in the chair. I deserve a toy.
And that's a whole episode of the other show. What's wrong with the American idea of adultism?
Truly. So, anyhow, anybody else have final thoughts? Check your bank balances.
Have fun.
Only make this as serious as you want it to be. Because I get really worried because I love the AuthorTube community. And I see aspects of it from time to time. They get really into we're going to be the ones that make it big. We're going to be rich. We're going to spend all of this money and we're going to be the that's going to help us get to where we want to go. And groupthink is a thing. Have stopgaps to keep yourself from falling into that, because that's the quickest way that you will destroy any business that you start. Is if you're hanging around with other people that are in the same industry and you're all doing the same thing because you think you have to, or because, well, I guess that's the only way to do it.
Yes, that's true.
It's 2022, almost 2023. There are a lot of ways that you can probably be telling story that you're not even thinking of. That could be
the kids. It hadn't occurred to them that what they really wanted was a popcorn party, but they kept asking for a pizza party.
Yeah, I've been looking at what other authors are doing, and there are so many creative ways to do storytelling, because that to me is what I'm about. I'm about storytelling.
Same.
And it feels good holding a book that I created in my hand. Yeah, I'm not going to say that it doesn't, but that's not the end goal for me. And knowing that going into it and writing it down, write down what your goal is, especially if you're doing this as a business, because you will get so lost in the minutia if you don't. If your goal is to tell stories, write that down on something that you see regularly so that you don't get lost in, but my book sales, but my this, but my that. If your goal is stories, have you tried a podcast?
Right.
Have you done what Maggie does and read your stories on your YouTube channel? Right? There are so many ways to do this, to get those stories out there and to find an audience for it.
Oh, Jen, I'm so glad you had a great time. Thank you so much for coming. And I definitely look forward to hanging out with you at the Discord server. Carrie says, I, as an adult who has put so much energy into not having an anxiety attack at the dentist, want a prize at the end. Yes.
Right?
The whole group of us, we deserve dentist prizes. I'm just saying. I will take a pretty cute looking eraser after being good in the dental chair. If you clean my teeth, I would like a strawberry shaped eraser. Okay, thank you. Just saying. Next week, we're going to talk about marketing and promoting. We will focus on marketing and promoting your books and stories, but also just you as a person, like your services. Whatever it is that you are needing to do, we are going to talk about marketing and promoting them. Because people have had experience. Also, if you have experience in it, we definitely want to hear from you. And if you'd like to join us on the panel, let me know. But that is what we're going to talk about next Monday. We hope you will join us for that. We're very excited. The week after that, though, to wrap up, everybody is going to come and share their favorite vibe. So as a writer or just a person, what do you like to vibe with? Like maybe there's ambiance videos, or there's certain music playlists, or there's certain musicians or composers that you like for various vibe purposes. Everybody gonna share their links so we can all enjoy each other's finds on setting the mood, whatever the mood is that you're wanting to set. It's gonna be great.
That'll be fun.
See y'all later. We are going to meet over in the Unicorn Council Discord server in the Clubhouse voice chat. Right at, 7 p.m. my time, so 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then we'll be there for a bit. I'm going to play Don't Starve Together. I don't know what y'all are going to do. It's kind of like study hall. Everybody hangs out and does their thing. So many playlists. I'm very excited for everyone to share their playlists.
I think I'm going to share something a little different.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.